Okay, I want to welcome you to another edition of Halftime Chat. Today I am joined by a really special guest, and I've always said my all my guests are special, and but it's really good. It's going to be a privilege to interview Dawn Robbins, who was formerly with the R&B group En Vogue, and then she briefly joined with the neo soul R&B group Lucy Pearl, and really powerful vocalist. And so she has embarked on quite a number of interviews recently, and it'd be good to get the chance also to speak to her here on Halftime Chat and probably go through just her life story, understand the story behind the music, and um, and hopefully we can get a special treat from her as well. So we've got quite a bit to cover. Hopefully it will be as enjoyable for all of us. So she's coming in soon, and we'll start the show once she's in. She's ready. I'm bringing it in, and gonna enjoy this. Waiting for your audio to connect through. Okay, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Yes, doing well, thank you. It's good.
Very good. Very good. How do you say your name again?
Namdi.
Namdi. How
Yeah,
are you, Namdi?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Very good.
Now, yours says Donity. Is that
Donathy. Yeah, that's a
Donity?
nickname. That's a nickname my family uses. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I know that you've recently done quite a number of different interviews with journalists and people around the world. So,
Yes, I
um,
have a lot.
yeah,
To
and,
say
and
the least. It's
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, there may be a few common things that we may have to talk about, but I think
That's right.
for my sort of audience, the reason they tune in is to just hear the journey, and I think for them we look at people who have a career in the recording industry and in awe and realize that, well, they didn't they how did they get into music, and
Right.
how were they lucky enough to start a career that really got them, whether they got a Grammy Awards or American Music Awards, but somehow they've made it to the top. And so we always like to hear that journey, almost like behind the
Yes.
music. And so
Right.
we start from the very beginning, like an international audience. Where were you sort of born and raised?
Well, I was raised in Connecticut, born in Connecticut, and raised there in Connecticut until I was about 14 years old. And then my mother decided that, our little small town was getting a little too busy with boys. And my sister, my sister and I'm older than my sister. And we were, boys were taking interest in us. And she just thought, okay, there's got to be a better opportunity on the East Coast. I'm sorry, we were on the East Coast. So she
Yeah.
wanted to move to California. On the
Okay.
West Coast, my dad had moved out to California, to Los Angeles. So she said, well, Los Angeles is a little too fast. Maybe we'll go to the Bay Area. And
Wow.
my cousin and her husband lived there, and we moved in with them. Um, and it was a tight, quarters, because it was my cousin and her husband, my mom, my sister, and I, and then my cousin's sister, so my also my cousin, and then my mother's good friend and her daughter. And this two
Wow.
bedroom apartment, one bathroom.
My goodness.
So yeah, we all headed west, and we just wanted better opportunities. So we all ended up there. But my mom quickly, I use her as an example of strength for me all the time, because she literally moved to the East Coast, from the East Coast to the West Coast,
Yeah.
without having any kind of navigation. In other words, she didn't, back then you could mail in your resume, but you don't know in proximity to where you live where the hospital is that you want to work, or the job that you want in
Yeah.
proximity to where you live before you actually see the area.
Mm.
So she ended up, when we got to California the next day after getting off the plane, she literally went to San Francisco and put in a bunch of applications at different hospitals and got a job like in a few days.
Wow.
Yeah. And then about a month after that, she had applied for a couple of apartments and got one. And it was like, she set us up so quickly, but to take the journey and move, 3,000 miles across country with two girls, it's different when you're single and you can move and do how you want.
Yeah.
But to take the risk with my sister and I was like, wow, I looked at her. That is one of the biggest, she's one of the biggest examples of strength to me,
Yeah.
my mom.
Well, okay. I mean, that is definitely fascinating, and I guess
Yeah,
it
thank
is
you.
that sort of vision, seen before, and creating. But then
Mhm.
moving to the Bay Area, how did you get into sort of singing? Was it a young age, or as you got older?
Well, I was into singing when I was in New London, Connecticut,
Okay.
prior to moving to California. So when we got to the Bay Area, I had done a little bit of studio work, and everybody in my hometown knew that I could sing too. So everybody kind of was rooting for us when we went across country, that she's going to California. That's where all the stars are. Even though I wasn't going to Los Angeles, I was going to San Francisco still.
Yeah.
They all had hopes that when we got there that I would meet someone and they would give me a break. And sure enough, I was at an all-day concert, and this guy kind of gave me the look, like, he called out to me and said, excuse me, are you a model? And I was like, what? Okay, whatever. So I blew him off, and then I went to the restroom with my friend, and we got some popcorn. Came back to that area that he was standing in to get to our seats, and he was still standing there. And he said, excuse me, I'm the guy who asked you if you're a model. And I said, yes. I said, no, I'm not a model. And he said, well, can you sing? And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, wow, that was the break that I needed. He said that his friends were doing an audition, and that I should come out. I have a good look. And if I can sing, it'll be great for the group that they're putting together. I was like,
Oh,
wow.
okay,
I
okay.
mean,
But you kind of fast forward a little bit. But where did you start to learn how to actually sing? Because you've,
okay, sorry
yeah.
about that. I digress.
No, 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 no.
Well, I just kind of honed my skills by listening to other artists. You
Like
know what I
who?
mean? It's like Shaka Khan, um, Stephanie Mills, Tina Marie, the Carpenters, because their harmonies are so amazing. So yeah, I've listened to, and Crosby, Stills and Nash, their harmonies are amazing as well. My dad played a lot of the Beatles, a lot of rock stuff in the house. Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Rolling Stones. My mom played more of the Motown R&B sound.
But where
And
were
then
you singing
together,
though? But
say
were
again?
you singing, like, in a quiet school, or a church, or
Yes.
how? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
exactly did
So
you?
I know what you're getting to. Yeah. Sorry, Namdi. I'm going ahead of you a little
No,
bit,
no,
but
no,
yes,
no.
I
That's
did.
cool.
I did. I sang in church, but I wasn't the star singer. I didn't do
Okay.
solos. Every now and then I do a solo. I think in the time that we were in church, we joined the church when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
I didn't sing very many solos. I
Mm,
was too nervous. I didn't think I had what it took. I was kind of in the background.
okay.
I didn't really stand out and say, hey, I want to do a solo. And so I wasn't picked for them. I didn't have the confidence, you
But
know.
did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the singing
I
more
love
so than?
singing.
But you didn't care
Yeah,
about the spotlight. You just
I
enjoyed.
did.
Oh,
I did, but I didn't volunteer for stuff. And I didn't get picked because I wasn't volunteering. If you volunteer, then the choir teacher will say, hey, okay, so Dawn, you want to do it, a solo? You want to,
Okay.
or a choir director, I should say. But because I didn't stand out like that, I was too nervous. I kind of just stood in the background.
But at
I
nine,
wasn't.
10, were you too young though to? Oh, because that seems like quite a young age to start volunteering for solo.
Well, yeah, that's when we first joined the church. So I was still getting to know who I was as a singer. But at home, I would sing with Shaka Khan, like Shaka Khan. I would sing with
Wow.
Minnie Riperton. I think I was 14 years old, just before moving to California. My mom found this guy who was a friend of theirs in town. It was such a small town, everybody knew each other. So she found out that he had a studio in his basement, and we went to his. Minnie Riperton had just passed away at that time, and she had
Mm,
done Memory Lane was her song that she came out with just before she died.
mm,
Um, and my mom bought me that album, and I learned that song. And she told him that I can sing, so he said, "Well, why don't we? What's her favorite song?" And I told him. He asked my mom, but I told him. I said, "Well, Memory Lane, that's like my favorite song." And he said, "Okay, why don't you guys come to the studio and I'll record you with Minnie Riperton." So on one side of the tape, it's a cassette tape.
that was good.
He panned her voice to the left and he panned my voice to the right. And I am 14 years old and I'm singing those high, I think it's C above C. You know, the high notes, the whistle notes as they call them. And I'm
Mm.
doing that with her at 14 years old. So,
But did you
I had
did you
talent.
recognize that you had the talent? Because I guess some
I
people,
did.
okay, and
Yeah,
did
I did, but I still wouldn't volunteer. I was too nervous.
yeah,
I just didn't have the confidence to say, "Hey, I'm a great singer and hey, you should choose me." I
yeah,
mean, it was enough that I got into the choir. I knew I had talent,
yeah,
but as a kid, you just don't, volunteer yourself. Someone has to hear you and say, "Wow, you got something."
yeah,
You know what I mean? You have something different than most people. Now, some kids are very confident, and they step up and like in the case with Beyonce, her parents knew
yeah.
that she had it as well. So they pushed her a little bit different than my mom pushed me. My mom believed in me because she actually moved to California based on the fact that she knew that the boys were getting involved with me and all that stuff, or interested in me. But she also knew that I had talent and it wasn't going to be discovered in our small little town.
Okay,
So she took my sister and I and moved us across country. But yeah,
okay,
she knew I had it. It's just how as a young single mom, where do I find those things? How do I find these people that can help my daughter with her career?
yeah,
Like you don't know where to find that stuff,
yeah.
those
No,
connections.
yeah. As I said, it's. I mean, for us out here in Europe, and even if it's in
Hmm.
Africa or Australia, we always
Yeah.
look at America and hear the stories of we were singing in church, we got discovered, and it just almost seems so natural. But I
Yes.
went to college in America, and it's not that easy to get discovered. So hence, hearing the story and the journey is really fascinating. So we
Right.
go
It
back to
is.
the
Thank you.
concert. The guy says, "Come meet." We're putting together a group
An
and stuff,
audition.
an
Yeah. He
audition.
said this.
And but
Go
okay,
ahead.
but prior to that, when you moved to the Bay Area, were you still singing in a church, in a choir? Were you still honing your talent? Were you getting spotlights?
I was honing my talent, but I wasn't getting any spotlights. Our little small town, it
Oh, in the
was
Bay Area.
probably no, no, no. So
Oh,
you're
no, when
saying
you
when
moved to
we moved to
yeah, when you moved to
California?
California, yeah, yeah. Were you
Nope,
still
I still
singing?
wasn't. No, I was still singing. I mean, that has never changed, but there was no one in the Bay Area to discover me. That's not the place where you get discovered, which
Yeah.
is why it is so shocking that a huge group like En Vogue came from the Bay Area. It was
Mm.
just, it was unheard of that someone was doing an audition there. I had never been to an audition before that audition.
Wow.
So it wasn't like, it was constant. Los Angeles, you hear about open calls and
Yeah, yeah,
auditions all the time. Every week there's a new audition, probably every other day, I would say,
yeah.
is a new audition for a movie, for a part in a play, for a girl group or a solo career. I mean, it's just all those opportunities are much more prevalent in Los Angeles, but not so much in the Bay Area.
Okay.
So for our producers to be doing, well, now they are producers, but for those guys, Denny and Tommy, Denzel Foster, Thomas McElroy, to be doing an audition in the Bay Area was just what? Like you don't hear about that.
Oh,
It
so who was
wasn't
the guy?
common.
Who was the guy who
It was the two guys that produced En Vogue. So Denzel Foster and
no,
McElroy.
who was the guy who saw you that brought you that?
Oh, his name is JR. He was just a friend of theirs, and he said my
Okay.
friends are doing an audition, and he
Oh,
brought
his
me.
friends. Okay. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
now it's a nice Hollywood story, but I would be very skeptical of some guy saying, "Oh, my friends are doing this," and how do you know he wasn't trying to? How do you know he
I
was?
didn't know. I
Okay.
didn't. I mean, you got to take a chance at some point. You see
Yeah.
somebody that's, first of all, I told him I am not, because he said, you got to come to my place tomorrow so I can hear you sing and see if you actually have talent. I said, no,
Okay.
I refuse. I am not coming to your house to see. And no, in fact, I live with my parents. You can come to their house and hear me sing if you want. If you want to know if I have talent, that's where you have to come and
Okay.
find out. I am not coming to your place. And he came the next day. I'm sorry, 2 days later. And my parents were home, so I felt safe, you know.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Um, and he heard me. I did "Caught Up in the Rapture" by Anita Baker,
Anita
saying
Baker,
that.
wow,
He
yeah.
was like, "Oh my God, yeah, you got what it takes," you know. But and then about a week later was the actual audition. So, you know, I trusted him because how else do you know if you don't trust? And my
Yeah,
parents were there as well. I wouldn't have
yeah.
done it without that.
So that audition then becomes when they're talking about an audition, I think I'm thinking about American Idols where 10,000 people are showing up singing for Simon, Randy, and Paula back in the day. What was the audition
Mhm.
for you when you went?
Yeah, the actual audition.
Yeah, yeah. What was that? Was it just that thousands of girls lining up to come in?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. The day that I went to the audition, I think they said Denny and Tommy said that they had about 16 girls total that had come out. But the day that we were at the audition was just the six of us. And I say six because it was Terry, Maxine, Cindy, myself, and then a girl. Actually, it was five. So Jordana, another girl named Jordana, who didn't make the group, but um, it wasn't a cattle call, what they call a cattle call audition. It wasn't that at all. Where you got like droves of women coming in all the time. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So, but I just think, wow, even in the four or the five of us that were there that day, for me to be chosen as one of the girls in the group, that's to me fascinating. It is just outstanding to me. I'm just amazing.
Were they always
I mean,
planning
it's
to have
amazing.
the four girls, or were they looking for five and then they just felt four would work, or what? Did they have a
No, they were looking for three. They were only looking for three.
Okay.
And Maxine and Jordana were roommates. And
Okay.
Jordana was getting ready for the audition, and Max was like, "Where are you going?" And she said, "I'm
Wow.
going to an audition." Yeah, but she didn't tell Maxine about it. Somebody else had called Maxine, a guy named Ken, and said, "Hey, there's an audition being held. Do you want to go?
Oh
I'll come
goodness.
take you." Yeah, but her own roommate did not tell her that there was an audition. So you see how dirty that was.
Wow.
Um, and she came to the audition, but Jordana had a very nasty attitude when she walked in. I'd say maybe about an hour after she got there. I met Cindy first. Cindy was first. I was second to get there, and then Maxine came in. Then Jordana came in separately from Maxine because she didn't even come with her. And about an hour into the audition, we were kind of sitting around and learning the background parts for the song we were going to audition to. And she said to the producer, "So y'all don't have no food? Where's the food? Like y'all ain't gonna
Oh,
feed us? Where's the beer?"
wow. Wow. Okay.
I was like, okay, she is not going to make the group because she was just rude and very, very street. And, you know, she was fun. We had a good time with her, but I just thought, wow, you don't walk into an audition and ask for beer. You don't walk into anybody's office or to their home and say, "Are you going to feed us?" You know, that's
Well,
wow, like,
well, she
wow.
was she was inclusive though. She said us, so she wasn't just thinking about herself.
Don't
So
put me in that.
she said
Don't put me
us.
in that. Do
She
not
said
put
us.
me in that. Don't say
Wow.
us. I no, I'll go get my own food because I'm like, these guys are nice enough to even have us in their studio.
Yeah.
You know what I
Uh,
mean?
I'm thinking, was there drama when Maxine shows up and says, "What's going on here?" and sees her
No, no,
roommate?
no. They knew. Maxine said, "Well, Ken is going to take me." They talked at home before she left. She
Okay.
said, you
Okay.
know, she wasn't worried about going with Jordana. She came on her
Okay.
own.
Okay.
So she's like, "Whatever. It's like God saw to it that saw fit that Maxine made it as well. Even
Yeah.
though Jordana wasn't kind enough to say, "Hey, something's going on. I want you to go with me."
Yeah.
Um, she undercut Maxine in a sense, and Maxine got there anyway.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
So
that was a
what?
God moment.
So I guess the two questions that I do have then is
Hmm.
did you then think I want to go solo, but I might as well. This is my chance to be in a group, or did you think, group, it's maybe not for me long term, but I'll just go with it. What was the thinking, or was it like,
No, it was just an opportunity. It's like, you know, sometimes you may get a job that you weren't expecting, and
okay,
they want to train you for something that you were not expecting. So I just thought, okay, I want to be a star. I want to be a celebrity. This is my chance to do this, and I don't have to be out there on my own. That's good.
okay,
I was happy about that because you know you grow to have a certain kind of camaraderie between the people that you're in a group situation with. And in this
mm,
case, it was three other girls. I was like, wow, this is perfect. I loved it. And the harmonies that we had the day of the audition told all of us, everybody in that room, it was magical. It was magical, magical. So yeah, we had to be together. It didn't match so much with Jordana's vocals, so I don't know how much they actually had her on the record. But when we got in the studio, it was like, it was just, we clicked. Everything came together vocally, the four of us.
Now you mentioned that they initially wanted 3. So how did they, what changed their mind? How did they think, okay, we can't do 3, we need to go 4?
Well, again, once they heard our vocals together, they knew that if we only have 3 girls, once, for instance, if Maxine is singing lead on something, you only have 2 other girls there to sing 2-part harmony. It's not going to be 3-part harmony. So it doesn't sound the same. You have to have 3 parts in order for the harmony to work, or 4 parts or 5, but more than 2. And sometimes 2-part harmony is really nice. It just depends on the notes you're using. But typically, what they wanted their ears to hear would have been a 3-part harmony with 1 girl singing lead.
Yeah.
So it just worked out, and they were like, well, instead of having 3, they all look right together. They all sound good together. Let's go ahead and have the 4 girls.
Yeah. But then, so you guys then sort of click. Did they just come up with contracts that sign here? And now, and the reason I ask this is that I've been over the past 4 or 5 months speaking to artists, and it's almost the same stories that we saw in the TLC documentary, saw in the New Edition and Bobby Brown stuff, and it's almost like eye-opening to us. But for you guys at the time, it was like, wow, we're just excited, we got an opportunity, sign here. Were you able to get lawyers and parents to look through and like what's going on? Or
well, with a contract that big, it's like 24 pages. My parents wouldn't have known exactly what was going on. They looked at it, but they weren't in the music business. None of our family members could ever tell us exactly what we were getting into. They had no clue. It was nothing they'd ever seen before. We had never seen it before, so let alone our family members helping us through that. But we did go to Los Angeles. We got an attorney of our own. We hired Don Wilson, who was a Black attorney. A lot of times what happens with the attorneys that have a name in the industry, they're already tied and connected to the major labels. They're bought and sold by the majors. In other words, the attorneys know that they can't make an alliance with the artist that they're representing because they're going to bring another artist through those doors. So, in other words, they can't go against Clive Davis for the artist that they're representing, because they know that they're going to bring another artist to Clive Davis, and they have to make alliance with Clive. So they represent Clive or Jimmy Iovine or Sylvia Rohn in our case. And he wasn't really looking out for En Vogue as much. He told us some things were wrong with the contract, but his loyalty was more with the industry. So we really didn't have somebody that had our backs from the very beginning. And had we had someone that was not an attorney, an entertainment attorney that was not connected to the industry, we would have fared a lot better. And it's also that we had our producers, Denzel Foster, Thomas McElroy, had a manager named David Lombard. And they said to us, you guys should have him as your manager as well. And they were like, it's a conflict of interest, but he's a good guy and he'll take care of you. And I was thinking, okay, well, if you guys say he's good, then he's good. And we all trusted that. But it was really a bad situation, because when it comes time to renegotiate, if you're lucky enough to sell, your first album goes multi-platinum or platinum, and you tear up that old contract, you have to renegotiate for better terms than what you initially started with. And David was not willing to represent either side. He couldn't represent Danny and Tommy or us. So there was no one there in our corner.
So, and I think
we had to go ahead and hire another attorney to represent that renegotiation. It's like, by then it's like, well, why are we rehiring David back? And
I think this is sort of a lesson for upcoming, because it's
artists.
Because it's quite easy to, you've been given a golden opportunity from nothing, and they're saying half of nothing is nothing. But if they say, look, we've got $5, we can share it into five, it's like, well, I didn't have anything in the first place. So it's
Right,
quite
exactly.
easy to take advantage of very vulnerable people. And it is quite a,
Well,
it's yeah, from the outside, it might seem easy, but I can imagine that it's not, it was pressured. It was a lot of people you might
yeah.
trust in the early days.
I wouldn't say that so much. It's like, look, you are looking at a situation where your dream has come true.
Yeah,
You're in the industry. The world is getting ready to hear your name for the first time. Like you just said, there's a great opportunity here. When you first start out, there is no reason for the record label is not going to take a chance and put a whole bunch of money into you because they don't know if you're willing to sell, if you're able
yeah,
to sell or not.
yeah,
They have no idea if you're gonna if they throw you against the wall and you stick and the world loves you and you blow up, maybe that'll happen. But they might throw you against the wall and you don't work at all
yeah,
and that you don't sell and the world doesn't pick up on the fact that you are successful and they love your music. So they were taking a huge chance on us and they were not willing to put up a bunch of money in order to do that. They had to make sure that we had no leverage.
yeah,
You know what I mean? We had no
yeah,
bargaining power. We had
yeah,
no um, nothing to say, hey, we've done this and so we need more money. It's like we took what we were given because I had never made $10,000 at one time. And
yeah.
Cindy had never made that, Maxine's, Terry. So they gave us $5,000 up front. I was working at a dental office. I was probably making, I don't know, minimum wage back then, $6 an hour.
Mm.
You know what I mean? As a receptionist and I really wasn't that good because I didn't know all the names of the teeth. You're supposed to know those things because when people call in and say, "Oh my gosh, my back molar is killing me," I have to know
Yeah,
which side that's on, and I
yeah.
didn't know any of those things. And my mom is the one who got me the job. It was at her dentist's office, and she worked in the same building on another floor.
Okay.
So I had just a little odd job, and I wasn't doing anything else. You'd offer me 5 grand up front, and then the other 5 grand once the album is finished. Like that's $10,000. I had never seen $10,000 in one sitting ever in my
Yeah,
life. So yeah, those blessings are there, but so the pressure wasn't there for that. I'm just thinking, okay, once we succeed and the world knows our name, we could probably change our terms. I didn't really know how it went, but I just thought, okay, maybe it starts out slow, but it's going to eventually get better and we're going to
yeah,
start to make millions of dollars. Just as
yeah,
a lot of the group, it only happens with the black groups and the black acts that we are ripped off this way. It doesn't happen with the country western artists like the Garth Brooks of the world or, you know, In Sync. I think In Sync went through something with Justin Timberlake in
yeah.
the group, but for the most part, white artists don't go through the same things. So I'm just wondering why we are the ones who get, falter this way,
Well,
taken advantage of us.
yeah, yeah, and I think what we're finding out is the most of the country acts tend to, it's about the writing and it's about coming with the package. So if you producers, self-contained writers, producers, and you have a very unique style, um, they were then there seems to be more. And I think if you look at rock and stuff, they do come up with
Mhm.
they're writing their own stuff. They're
They do.
self-contained.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
unlike with R&B, where I think Milli Vanilli was probably a golden case where this producer writes all the songs, just gets two front people to pretend to sing, and sells all the records. And so they realize, oh, we can just get faces, but these are we'll get the publishing people who can write and produce and put the songs out. We own the songs. Doesn't matter who fronts the stuff. Um,
yes, I understand. That was a very isolated situation. It's unfortunate because those guys could really sing.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
I don't understand why the producers thought, oh, we're gonna get some vocalists that nobody can see and act like these guys are actually singing what you hear.
yeah,
That made no sense to me because those guys were super talented and I feel
yeah,
for them.
yeah,
That was a lot of pressure and they took advantage of those guys and it's not
yeah,
fair. The one killed himself because of it. It's just like,
yeah,
wow, I had talent the whole time, but this guy told us that we didn't have to sing anything. So
yeah.
that was an unfair situation. But in our case, we co-wrote on the first album.
Oh, you
We
did.
co-wrote Hold On. Yeah, we co-wrote Hold On and a few other songs on that album. So
But
I still, yeah.
yeah, but then okay, yeah, with En Vogue, so it's Foster, McClure, and En Vogue. So yeah, they put you guys on it. But
Yeah.
the when you guys came together and you're writing and getting ready to do the album,
Hmm.
did you then decide, okay, could you guys write before? Could any of you write, or is it the
No,
vocals that you had?
I mean, Maxine, I think, had written some songs at home. It wasn't like we were avid writers because we didn't have to be.
Yeah.
I would go in the studio with a guy named Daryl Clifton, and we would write stuff. I was 16 years old. I didn't want to be in the room writing with him. I wanted to be out with my friends, hanging out and playing and having a good time. So I wish I would have listened to him a lot more because I could have become a much better writer had I done that. But I just wanted,
Mm,
I'll just sing and let me go home. I want to be with
yeah.
my friends. And I didn't learn the art of writing. Some people grow up, especially females, as singers, they grow up writing poems, poetry.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And I wasn't that kind of writer. So Denny allowed us to write on Hold On and about 5 or 6 other songs on the record, on the first album. Um, yeah, so we should have had a lot more publishing for that record than we did because they took advantage of that as well.
but did you guys, okay, so because this is all business side of publishing and stuff,
Mhm.
because I'm always remember when I found out Whitney Houston didn't write a lot of her songs, and it was a shock. I'm like, how could you be singing? Because it didn't make sense. But then you later find out that a lot of our R&B artists
A
either,
lot of artists, period. Even country and western artists,
yeah,
they just have better deals. It has nothing to do with the writing as much as the deal that you sign. The deal
mm,
was so horrible that we signed. It was like what they call a dinosaur deal. Like new artists today are not getting the deal that we got back then. It was just that bad. It was super super bad. So it just depends on, like, Destiny's Child made a lot of money when they were a group. They made like 50 million a piece when they were Destiny's Child before Beyonce ever left,
yeah,
because the deal that they had was so lucrative. And Beyonce's father, um, just he made sure that everything was fine and that the girls were protected and covered. So it
yeah,
just depends. It depends more on your deal than it depends on how much you write. If you write, that's even better.
yeah.
But if you don't, then yeah, it's okay.
So I mean,
If you have the right deal.
yeah, if you have the right deal, and I guess this is something that Left Eye sort of woke us all up to, that most of
Hmm.
us were shocked to hear, when she
Yeah.
says they're at the Grammys, they've won all this stuff and they've sold 10 million and they say we're broke. And it didn't make sense to any of us because you
Right.
guys have sold all this stuff. And she
Hmm.
explained about the advances and how much you get and all that stuff. And it was almost like,
Yeah.
wow, put a big spotlight. And in not long after, Tony Braxton has to file for bankruptcy, and it was like the
Tony
trend was,
Braxton had made millions though. She had made a lot of money, not what she deserved, but she had made a lot of money. So Tony's was a little bit different, and
okay,
even TLC had made a million apiece. So they made, I think, 56 cents per girl or per record or something like that, and we made 2 pennies per record.
what? Wow.
2 cents per girl. 2 cents for Cindy, 2 cents for Maxine, 2 cents for Dawn, 2 cents for Terry.
So this is a record that sells $10. You get 2 cents out of it from the $10 per record.
Back then it was $10, 10.99 for a record, and then it became 16.99 depending on the store. Yeah, and two
So,
pennies.
but then I thought I was under this impression that a standard artist deal was 20% of
Every
the.
deal is different. That's not there's no standard. This Every deal is different for each artist. So it depends on how much you come in knowing and what your people represent for you. So if your
Okay.
attorney is really good and he's in your corner and has your back, he's going to make sure you get a bigger point structure.
Yeah.
He's going to make sure your percentages are larger. And that's
Wow.
what happened with Destiny's Child. They made millions of dollars because their deal was right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah.
But
So
I think with Destiny's Child, though, I
mm.
think En Vogue set the precedent, so it was quite easy for them to say we've got the new En Vogue because
But I think
bef-
even if we never came in there, I think because Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father, was a marketing genius. He knew what to do. He knew exactly what they deserved, and he
yeah,
wasn't going to have anything less. And he
yeah,
had built them up to a certain point, so he knew their worth. They had kind of a following in the Houston area,
okay,
Houston, Texas area. So he wasn't going to let a record company take advantage of his girls. You want these girls? This is what you got to pay to get them.
yeah, yeah,
So he represented them in a totally different way. He was not going to have, but yes, I digress. I'm sorry. You're right. He told me, I saw him at an after party, kind of like after you get out of an award show, everybody kind of piles out into the lobby area, and
Yeah,
all the celebrities are talking and producers and everybody's just around, and we're doing interviews and stuff. And Matthew saw me and he was like, I'll wait, because I was standing there doing an interview, and he said, I'll wait. And he just stood there and waited for me. And after I was done, I gave him a hug, and he said, I love En Vogue. My girls are I structured their deal after I looked at your imprint and structured their deal after you. And I said, who is your girls? And he said, Beyonce. Beyonce's my daughter. Destiny's Child are my girls. And I was like, wow. Excuse me. I said, if we were your artist, we would be looking at a whole different deal today.
mm,
If you were our manager at that time, we would have been taken care of. It was a travesty what happened. And he agreed. He's like, no, you guys were amazing, and you deserved a lot more than you got. But he said, I saw what you did wrong, and I did different. I asked for a different point structure. So yeah, we were that example. But he also knew, just marketing wise, like if these girls make this amount of money, you're not going to offer this bullshit deal.
yeah,
You're not gonna give us pennies on the dollar like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So, but so if we go to the exciting part of you actually recording the album and it
Mhm.
comes out and Hold On comes out and you guys are doing your the famous a cappella before and it was something, you know, it was almost like it didn't it took us back to, you know, World War II, sort of that type of the
Yes, the
harmonies.
Entry Sisters.
Yeah, it took
Entry
us
Sisters.
to that, but then it
Yeah.
had the Bay Area sort of Tony sort of funky New Jack stuff, and
Yeah.
it was very fascinating because we'd never, I mean, not since even no even the Supremes were three, and we didn't really get them harmonizing to that level, so it was very
Mhm.
fresh, very new, and it took us all by
Sister
surprise.
Sledge. Sister Sledge did it. Expose kind of did it as well. Their harmonies were really beautiful, but there was no a cappella the way that we did it. That wasn't there.
Yeah,
But there was a sense of harmony within the other girl groups. Like in the 70s, there was Cover Girls, Expose, Sweet Sensation. Those groups might not have come over to the UK, so I'm not quite sure. But yeah, you had the what did I say, Sister Sledge. Those
mm,
were four women together. The Pointer Sisters, I think, were five at one point.
okay,
Exactly. So they were doing it as well. But we had a unique, just Hold On in itself. Anytime I talk to producers and they're like, okay, what kind of sound do you want for your solo album? I'm like, whatever I do has to be so different. It has to be, and Vogue was just the creme de la creme vocally together. Again, those harmonies were so synergistic.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, it was just beautiful, and undeniable. And so on the radio, it was like, what the heck is this? Who are these? Who is
yeah,
this again?
yeah,
And where's the music at? And that whole little piece, when, and then it goes into you, and then the beat comes in, and it takes a minute. I think it's like 47 seconds for the first part, the acapella part, and
yeah,
then the beat kicks in. That was
yeah,
that
yeah.
was unique. Yeah, there was
Yeah, no,
nothing
so
on radio.
that's where I said it took us all by surprise and it was really like,
Exactly.
wow. I mean, Boys to Men sort of picked up on that. So, because that's
They
what
did.
sets them apart from most R&B groups was the fact
Right.
that they also harmonized the same way that you guys did. But as I said, you
Exactly.
combine the voices with the beats and you know, as I said, Tony sort of Bay Area beats and stuff. What we did it surprise you how well the album and the reception was when you when the album came out?
It did. I mean, we weren't stars before, so it didn't surprise us as much. It was just an exciting time. It was like, oh my God, the world loves us. The world, not just America.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was really kind of like, whoa. You just hope that what you do, the world it's gonna take to, and they're gonna like you and buy into your brand, and they did in a big way. So and it started out as our Black foundation, our Black fan base.
Yeah.
as far as our community is concerned. And then it crossed over pop, and that was
Yeah.
it. The world heard about it at that point. It was Asians, whites, and Native Americans. It was Latinas, Latinos. So everybody loved En Vogue. And that is what every artist, what every label wants
Yeah.
with an artist, you know?
Yeah. So when with all the success of your singles and doing the video shoots and stuff, of course, from our point of view, that you guys are living a glamorous life, but behind the
Yes,
scenes, does it feel like you're living a glamorous life? So are you, because I think I saw the New Edition story that they were doing all this stuff and they were going back to their parents' house and stuff. But what was it like for you
exactly.
guys?
Same thing, same exact thing, same exact thing. I got a small apartment. For a while I lived with my parents, and then maybe about 7 months after we came out, I went and got an apartment of my own, and I was paying 700 a month, $700 a month. And quickly I had to give that apartment up and go back and live with my parents again because I
Wow.
just didn't have any money coming in. Yeah. And we weren't on the road yet. So we were preparing for a tour, but we weren't quite on the road yet. So it was kind of like, it's like the world knows who you are, and you're driving a little junker of a car. You know what I mean? And but our producers were getting brand new Porsches every year. They would lease those, and after a while I was like, okay, wait a minute, this picture isn't right here, something's going on with this. Why is it that our producer has a mansion? And that came over time. It was about the next year, the following year, he bought a mansion, and I was like, how? Okay, where's the money? Show me the money. I just want to see the money. I want to know that we are. It's not that he shouldn't have it. It's not that at all. I didn't mean that he shouldn't have it. I just thought we need the same thing. We deserve to have our own mansions. Like, where's that?
But then, as a collective, did you guys have that discussion, or was it just you looking and thinking, what's going on, or did you get
At
the
first
four
it
of you?
was at first it was just me looking.
Mm,
And then I would bring Maxine in on the phone call and tell her, and she's like, you know what, you're absolutely right. We need more money. We deserve this. And I'm like, yeah, Max, because our first album is about 3 times platinum. And then 5 million. So it sold. And it's like, wait a minute, how come we're not getting money here? We're not getting paid the way we should. Something's wrong. I don't know quite what, but Terry was dating our producer, Denzel Foster. And that's when everything fell apart. Because if she's isolated over there by herself, and there's Terry over here, and then there's the three of us over here, and we're not coming together, you can't negotiate. You can't go to the record company and say, hey, the three of us just want to renegotiate without Terry. You need Terry there as well.
mm.
They didn't sign 3 girls, they signed 4. So if Terry is not complying and she's doing her own thing, she's not listening to us, then we don't have a group.
Did 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 that cause any friction in it when she started dating the producers?
Mm, no, it didn't cause friction at all, especially because we thought it was cute. We were laughing and giggling because we lived together. Me, Terry, and Maxine had an apartment together, so we each had our own room. And Denny would come over and he talked to the rest of us, but he would go in Terry's room and kind of stay for a few hours. And we were like, oh, okay. So that was, a cute relationship. We thought it was adorable. He was very fond of Terry. She was a Southern little belle, and excuse me, and he just adored her. Excuse me. And she adored him. We thought. So we thought it was cute. What I had a disrespect for Terry with is when we were supposed to renegotiate our contract. Like I said, we're asking,
After the
what do we
first
do
album?
now? Yes, after the first album. We're after you go platinum, typically you tear up the old contract, you go in and you renegotiate for better terms.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
what.
didn't do that. We never did that because Terry, like I said, was over there. So we didn't have a chance to come together, the three of us, Cindy, Maxine, and I, and say, hey, what are we going to do here? We came together and had those conversations, but we couldn't make a move without Terry.
Hmm. So that what happens when you start recording the second album? What was the mood like?
The second album, again, we went in and recorded the second album under the terms of the first album.
Wow.
So I didn't start feeling really, really bad about that until On the second album, that's when Denzel Foster bought his own mansion. And when we got to, he invited us over, the four of us. Yeah, he invited us over. And Namdi, I looked at his, first of all, I looked at the neighborhood. You have a security guard at the gate. So that means you live in an exclusive neighborhood. Like nobody can just drive through to your house. You know, you have, and while we were driving down the street to his house, I'm looking at all these mansions. Oh my God. Wow. Look at this right here. This house has 8 pillars in front of it. This house has 6 pillars in front of it. Like he lived in a mansion. We got inside his house and he's showing us around and he's got this staircase that you can go up either side. And I was like, okay, so you have 9 bedrooms or 7 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms or something like that. It was a lot more bedrooms than normal. You know, in an apartment, typically you get 2 bedrooms, maybe 3. You got 7 or 9 bedrooms, and how much did you say this cost again? And he was like, oh yeah, it's $20 million mansion. He was bragging. And I was like, Dawn, don't say it. Dawn, do not say it. Dawn, be quiet. Don't say it. And I was like, oh, so this is what our money bought you. And he was trying to clean it up by saying, oh, no, this was just, it was $8 million, you know, foreclosure. It was a foreclosure. It was only $8 million. I was like, only $8 million? I was like, oh my God, only 8 million. I don't have 800,000 to rub together. And you're telling me it's only $8 million? Like, really? So that's when I kind of, again, the wheels were turning in my head, but I couldn't figure out. You don't go to the record company and ask them what you should do. That's the wrong people to go to, because for them, they had their own terms and everything was working because they were making money hand over fist from En Vogue. So you don't call them and say, you guys, we need to find out what is it that we have to do here. And then Maxine kept asking Denny, the same guy that I said we were at his mansion. She kept asking him, calling him and saying, Denny, what are we supposed to, aren't we supposed to renegotiate our contract or something right now? And he was like, no, don't touch it. Like, don't mess up a good thing, because for them, it was very good. They had to split their points and their percentages with just the 2 of them, Denny and Tommy, where we had to split those same amount of points with Cindy, Terry, Maxine, and Dawn. But they only had 2 people. We had 4. So we weren't, there was no way. And again, how do you, if someone's telling you not to renegotiate and you don't know any better, then you're going to be quiet and just do whatever they tell you.
Yeah, and I guess it's one of the things where if you've not been, I mean, the industry, I think we've been exposed as fans to the industry in quite a bit over the past couple of years. Then there's a feeling of understanding how from Death Row right across, we've been exposed to a lot of this, and it's been like, wow, how bad has it been, especially for Black artists being ripped off by their own people who's just, you know, takes advantage and things.
Exactly.
But your second album becomes more, crosses over a lot more, you know, Funky Divas and with the bigger tracks. As I said, because if we look at the 90s, we had groups like SWV, Jade, Moke and Steph, but we and those were sort of our small little bands, like, you know, our little black bands. But En Vogue started to become, when I look at Boys to Men, when you start becoming more of, you know, you're going on the Tonight Show or stuff like that, you know, the other groups don't do that. You know, the other groups are the Arsenio Hall, and we're like, yeah, rocking. But when you're moving over to the Tonight Show and you're opening up, you're going mainstream, you then don't become the sort of an R&B group. You become like a bigger band. So the impression is, wow, these ladies are not just killing it, you know, financially, but they're just on another stage. But without us seeing the behind the scenes stuff, it becomes really big when the Set It Off comes out. And it was, I think, it was it was an iconic movie, you know, just having 4 black women coming together. And
Robbing
then
banks, like that doesn't happen. Yeah,
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 no, it doesn't happen. I mean, now there's a little bit more, but back then it was really big to have that movie come out,
yeah, yeah.
black director and everything. But then
Exactly.
you come up with this track, um, "Don't Let Go." Now, I must admit, so I've got when I was telling some of my friends who don't really know much of R&B, and I said, "Oh, I'm actually interviewing Don Robinson from En Vogue," they said, "Don't Let Go, En Vogue," because
Oh
and they're
wow,
white.
wow,
So this is
wow.
yeah. So they know the song, and
Sure. Oh
and
my
and they link to the
goodness.
song. Even even my wife, if I said In Vogue, well, I don't know In Vogue. I say, oh, let me play the music from Set It Off. Oh, that group.
Exactly.
So
Wow. Wow.
that's how powerful the song was, and
hmm
it's iconic. It's stuff. But then you're the main you're the main person that was
I
singing it.
sing lead.
You
Yes,
were the thing.
exactly.
But I guess it would be great to hear the process of when they presented the song to you guys. How did that come about, and how you decided who was singing what?
Well, that was not Foster McElroy anymore.
Okay.
So we were in between albums. We had just done, I think we were in between Born to Sing and just starting to
Oh, you,
record.
you did the
Oh,
EP, which was and I don't know why I skipped that. So before we go to Don't Let Go, because
that's okay.
the EP with um,
Runaway
Runaway
Love.
Love, powerful to say, was such a beautiful track.
Isn't that great? Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, it was such a I did who the hell was off F Mob? Cause I never saw them in the video. Were they just the producers
F
or
Mob were, yeah, they were in the video as well.
yeah, but
Foster
we
McElroy.
oh
But
that's them.
yeah, the F Mob was there. So before they signed En Vogue, they had a 5-act deal with Sylvia Rhone, and they came out with a girl and a guy duo. They were rappers. They had a solo female, a solo male, and they had us as a group, and then they had somebody else. I forgot, maybe a male rapper just by himself. I don't know, or a male R&B singer. But yeah, no, they had one of those, and they had a female. So we were the only ones out of that 5-act deal that was successful the way we were. And they did an album called F Mob Squared. On that album is Gotta Be a Better Way that they did, and we sang background. And then I think Strange is on there as well. It really isn't clear we were
Yeah,
talking in
the
Queens.
English accent. Yeah.
Yeah, Queens English. We thought we weren't that good, but and so those two songs were on that album, Gotta Be a Better Way and Strange. And then we came up with our own album. So it was a way for them to introduce all their artists on one album. And
Okay.
so that was so F Mob was they did Runaway Love. And it
Okay.
was just Denny and Tommy. That was one of their other names was F Mob
Okay.
with
Oh, such
Foster
a
McElroy. Yeah.
yeah. But it also marked a change from it was smoother, so it's almost moved into the sense that you were still keeping that mainstream stuff, and then you did a song with Salt and Pepper, which was the Waterman that you both
Yes.
had on your album and stuff.
hmm
So as I said, it was like you guys were just growing and going bigger and
But
bigger.
again, even What a Man was written by Herbie Lovebug. That wasn't Denny and Tommy. So I started giving, like, I brought we were at rehearsal, and I brought an article on Salt and Pepper. I think it was XXX magazine or Source magazine, one of those hip hop magazines. And I
Mm.
brought the interview to the girls, and I was like, "You guys have to read this." Like, Salt and Pepper took back their rights from their producer, and they fought for their rights so that they can have more control over their careers. They took their careers in their hands, and they walked away from Herbie Lovebug. And he was like, "Well, you guys can't produce your own songs. I'm the one who writes your hits for you." And they wrote their biggest hit, which was uh,
Was it Shoot?
not Shoot. No, just before that, it was Express Yourself.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they wrote Express Yourself without Herbie. And it was like, what are you saying? We can do this on our own. So they took charge of their lives, and that's all I wanted the girls to know. Like, we can do the same thing. We deserve this. And um, none of them wanted to hear me. I left rehearsal. We went to lunch. The magazine sat on the piano. We came back from lunch. We finished rehearsing for another 3 hours, and we left rehearsal, and the magazine still sat on the piano. And I took it home with me.
Yeah.
Some people, and I realized this over time. Some people are warriors, and they want to fight for their rights, and they're not afraid to do it. They may be afraid, but they take courage and they stand up because they know they have to.
Yeah.
Things are not going to change if we don't take it, in our own hands. And I found that I was walking on my own. I
Yeah.
didn't have, not everybody has the courage to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think you started off the interview talking about your mum taking the courage to move without seeing where she was going. So,
There you go. Yeah.
in a sense, there is a part of me that is quite understanding when, if you've come from an environment where you're taught taking bold steps and moving
Yeah.
into the unknown, as the song from Frozen comes, Frozen 2, on your own. It's understandable, but I've learned over time that not everyone has it, and you can't, if they can't see it, you can't force it.
It's hard to, exactly. It's hard to
And
force it
yeah,
on people. Yeah,
but then
it really is.
so if we go back to, so the guys, were they Europeans who came with the track? Because it wasn't, it was more like something like Celine Dion would do, or David
Which
Foster with
which track are you talking about?
Don't Let Go. So when
Oh
you
no, no. This was So Sylvia Rohn, our label head, came to us and said, "I have a song. Since you guys are in between albums, we were just getting ready to do the EV3 album. So this was after Born to Sing, Funky Divas, and Runaway Love, and we were in between. And she said, "There's a song that I think is incredible. You guys would make it a hit. It's called Don't Let Go," and it was written by Organized Noise, who is
Okay.
Rico Wade, and Organized Noise. And the writers actually of the song, he produced it, the music, and he had his team of people produce the music. But the writers for the song was Andrea Martin and Ivan Batias. And they just had this incredible song. I loved it right away. I think Cindy and Maxine loved it too. And Terry was the only one kind of fighting against it, because anytime we would get a song that was not Denny and Tommy's song, she did not like it very much. She would fight against it. And I'm like, okay, Terry, just because he's your man doesn't mean that he always has hits for us. Like, there's other people that can write for us too.
Mm.
We had done Silent Night with Chucky Booker. It was a
Uh,
Christmas song. So we had hits with other people, and she just kind of fought it. So we had to really kind of force her hand with that song. Like, this is a hit. We're going to record it. There's 3 against 1. So she had to sing it. And it turned out to be our biggest hit to date.
but whose idea was it that you would? How does it work when it comes to who sings lead and how it goes? Was it the producers that
Yeah.
or what was okay?
Yeah. A lot of times it's them, because they think after hearing us over the years, like Denny and Tommy knew what we sounded like. So they would always say, okay, Dawn, you're going to sing this one. Terry on this one, Maxine, Cindy. So, but with other people, because they knew our sound, they would say, okay, automatically, I think Dawn would be great for this. Oh, no, I think Maxine would be better on this song. Or
Mm.
Cindy's voice really fits the song. So that's how they would do it. And with Don't Let Go, it was that way. They thought that I would sound good singing lead. And then the record company came in and said, we don't want Dawn to sing lead because she's going to be leaving the group.
Well.
Yeah, we're going to be kicking her out. So we want to make sure that Cindy and Terry Maxine sing the lead with her, so that she doesn't have the bulk of the song. And it's because so Terry was offered a solo album by our record company before me. She did her album. We supported it. The record company supported it, had tour support, given her tour support. She did a video for her single. Maxine, Cindy and I went to her first show at the Pantages in Los Angeles and supported her first show because she was launching a tour.
Mm.
So we were right there with her, and then the record company offered me a solo album. Ooh. So basically the record company knew that we were it was divide and conquer. What they thought was going to be divide and conquer, because they knew that we were going to renegotiate our contract. They found out that we were upset that we were only making 2 pennies a record. We were supposed to we had agreed, the four of us, Cindy, Maxine, Terry, and Dawn, the four of us agreed, we're not going in the studio to sing one note until they renegotiate our contract for better terms. We've done 3 albums at this point. Runaway Love was just an EP, but it was still an album.
Yeah.
And we're still not making money, and there's a problem here. So finally, we all agreed that we were not going to go in the studio. We were going to stand our ground. We were not going to go in the studio and record anything until they renegotiate our contract. And Denny and Tommy, so when we signed to them, we signed to Too Tough Enough Productions. We signed to Atlantic Records through Too Tough Enough Productions. And because they were the middleman, well, not really. Yeah, they were. They were the middleman. So so we had to sign our contract with them first, Too Tough Enough Productions, and then we signed a contract with Atlantic Records. When Denny and Tommy found out that we were free and clear. Our contract had not been renewed by Denny and Tommy. They let it lapse because the person that signed, that did all their paperwork and all their office work and all this stuff was Tommy's sister, Tony. And when they fired her, or she quit, I can't remember. I think they fired her. But when they fired her, she wasn't there to make sure that the paperwork was signed with us again. I don't know if I'm getting clear to you. Yeah. So in order to have En Vogue, you have to have them re-sign to your production company. And they did not do that. And we found out and we were like, oh my God, we are free? Are you serious? Like, we're free. We can go directly to the record label, or we can leave Atlantic Records and go anywhere we want. And at that point, Babyface came in. LaFace was their label at that time, and Babyface in LA offered us a deal on the table for $4 million or something, like fully indemnified. Namdi, I'm telling you, it was fully, like, to be fully indemnified means you have the best insurance around you that's possible. You're all protected all the way around. It's like having, here in America, we have AAA insurance, we have State Farm, we have Prudential, and we have State Farm. Yeah. Like the best of the best protection around all four of us. The record company, Atlantic Records, can't come and get you guys. They can't come sue you guys. You are free and clear from that contract. And Denny and Tommy found out, and they forged the signature for Tony. They forged it. And we had to go out and hire, oh, this is crazy. I can't even believe we went through all this, but we hired a handwriting analysis expert. Yeah. And they were like, oh no, her T and the way that she does her Y at the end of her name is not right, doesn't match. And the Y at the end of her name, Granberry, that doesn't match. And you can see this and the E up over here. And yeah. So they forged her signature. And we had free and clear. Even then, they had found that we won that part of the case. And Denny, I don't know how it happened, but he called us back and was like, okay, you guys. So this is what happened. Terry went in and did her solo album. It was Divide and Conquer. Terry's over here recording. You guys can't do anything without her. So you're going to wait until Terry's done. And then maybe you guys can come back together. So by then, you'll take whatever deal we give you because you're hard up. You need money. So you're going to take whatever it is we put on the table. And sure enough, we did that second album under the same terms as the first. And with the EV3 album, we never renegotiated either. We never renegotiated. Oh my God, I forgot about that. We never renegotiated for that. But by then, the record company had come to Terry to do a solo album first. Then they came to me. And it's going to be like, okay, so Dawn and Terry are over here. They're in the studio. They're busy. So Maxine and Cindy, you guys are desperate. And now you have to wait for Dawn and Terry to come back. And then maybe Terry was done with her album. She was getting ready to go on tour, like I said, and we supported her. And then the record company came to me and said, well, Dawn, we're not serious about your album right now. We're just going to go in and do an En Vogue album. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. Because I had recorded some incredible material and Sylvia Rohn loved it at Atlantic Records. She loved it. And I'm like, so you took Terry's album seriously, but you didn't take my album seriously? Like, I'm feeling some kind of way about
Sylvia Rohn that changed her mind?
The only one. The only Sylvia Rohn, yeah. Change her mind about what?
about your record. She loved it first, and then she decided not to release it.
She didn't change her mind about loving the song. She still loved them, but she played a game with me. She had me in the studio to keep me busy, not necessarily because she was serious about putting my album out. She put Terry in the studio for the same reason. And that's why I was telling her, Terry's album, I'm sorry, no shade to Terry, I'm not being mean. I didn't like her album. It was called, I liked her single. It was called Whatever. It was a ballad. I loved it, but I didn't like the rest of her album. So in other words, you took Terry seriously, but you didn't take me seriously. And I have a problem with that. So I will stay in En Vogue, but I want you to let me go as a solo artist. You have to set me free. I want my rights as a solo artist to be revoked. And I'm going to go someplace else as a solo artist, but I'm going to continue to put En Vogue first. In other words, we started, like she said, we're going to start the next En Vogue album, which became EV3. And I was like, that's fine. Because I never allowed my solo project. By this time, I had a deal on the table with, did I have a deal on the table? I think with, I was going to say MC Hammer, with Dr. Dre. But I didn't sign directly to him. I signed to Aftermath. But I never allowed my side project or solo project to interfere with the En Vogue album. I still recorded every day. I was at the studio. Sometimes I was late, but I was always late. But I was in 5 minutes, 7 minutes late, but I was always there. And I recorded that whole album with them. And then they came to, Sylvia Rowan flew to Los Angeles and said, we're going to have a creative meeting. And I got to Terry's room. And again, I was late for that meeting and everybody was there ahead of me. And when I got there, they were already in the middle of the conversation talking about, well, we can't have any hidden agendas. And Dawn, so we know that you're doing a solo album. You can't do that if you're still in the group. And I was like, Sylvia, you already know that I'm in the group. And you already know that I'm doing a solo album. Has any point that we've been recording this third album or, a real album, because like I said, Runaway Love was not a real album, it was an EP. So what would have been, I guess, EV4. Yeah. So Born to Sing, Funky Divas, Runaway Love, and then EV3 it was supposed to be EV4. I said at no point has my solo situation over there with Dr. Dre, has that interfered in any way with me being in the studio? Has it interrupted the flow of anything? Like, I'm here. I recorded everything with you guys. I don't understand why you're kicking me out. And what's different about me doing a solo album and Terry doing a solo album? Terry did hers first. What's different about that? And Terry turned to me and she said, it just is, Dawn. It just is. Like really nasty and very indignant. And I was like, what? How is that different? I am, no, you have to explain that to me because it's not different. You are an artist in this group as well. You're just the same amount of time in En Vogue as I have had. In fact, I'm probably a few hours more than you because I was there at the audition and Terry was late because she had bad weather coming in from Houston. So she didn't get there until late at night. I was there all day. So I have a few hours more than you in the group, seniority wise. And I'm being funny, but I mean, really, it's like there is no difference between you doing a solo album and me doing a solo album. Are you kidding me? What makes you better than me? What makes what you did okay and what I did not okay? You guys are kicking me out of the group because I did exactly what Terry did.
No, but what was the reason? No, I think I'm a little lost. Sylvia just decided, well, we don't need you in the group.
No, she was pissed off because I slighted her. When she didn't take my solo album seriously, I told her, okay, I'll do the En Vogue album, but I want my solo rights revoked, remember?
Yeah.
So when I told her that, she's like, oh, so you're going to play me? Yeah, I'm going to play you just like you played me. I didn't appreciate that you didn't take my solo album seriously, but you took Terry's album seriously. You played a game with me. You used me as a pawn because you kept me from renegotiating with Cindy and Terry and Maxine, Cindy and Maxine. So the three of us, while Terry was in the studio doing her solo album, we couldn't renegotiate. And then she came to me. That made it even worse. So now it's just Cindy and Terry over there and Cindy and Maxine over there and me and Terry over here doing our solo project. So you took Terry's album seriously. And when she didn't take mine seriously, I was like, no, you're going to let me go. You're going to cut me loose as a solo artist and I'll stay in the group En Vogue and do what I have to do. I will fulfill my obligation to En Vogue, but I want you to let me go as a solo artist over here.
Mm.
And I will still record with En Vogue, but I want you to let me go as a solo artist. And she was pissed at that. So because I slighted her, she was going to teach me a lesson. And that's why when Terry said it's just different, because her and Sylvia had made that agreement with each other.
Mm.
It wasn't different. And Maxine sat on the floor. I walked into the room and Maxine was sitting on the floor in Terry's room. And I'm like, Max, why don't you say something? It isn't any different. Cindy, you're hearing exactly what's happening right now. You heard Terry just say it's different because it's her doing a solo album as opposed to me doing a solo album. You guys both need to be asking, why is that different? Why is that any different? Terry did a solo album. We should be kicking her out as well, just like Dawn. Or we keep Dawn and we keep Terry both. We shouldn't be kicking Dawn out.
But
if you're going to treat one, if you're going to treat one way, if you're going to treat Dawn that way, then you should treat Terry the same exact way.
Yeah, but was this after you'd already released Don't Let Go?
No. Oh yeah, after that, yeah. But we were all in the group. We all sang it together.
But so you sang most of the beginning and most of the, so you're
They were
prominent in that.
stupid.
But
Yeah.
then the singles out is it's the biggest song out there.
And Sylvia let me go. She let me go at the wrong time. That was my saving grace, that I sang lead on the biggest hit we had. Cindy, Terry, Maxine, they all thought that they were going to do better without me. One monkey don't stop no show, as they say here in America. One person missing doesn't make the whole thing fall apart. And I made the whole thing fall apart.
Yeah, because I think what happened was that the singer was so big, as I said, you very prominent with it.
Exactly.
And then they come out with E3 and it's just the three of them. And it didn't matter even if all your vocals were on it. I think it just there's things that just don't work,
Well, and also I agree with you, Namdi. It's also that your karma is affected, meaning, excuse me, anytime you do wrong by someone and you purposely hurt them on purpose, that karma comes back to you, whether it's right away, immediately, or it's like years down the road. I believe in karma. And I know that for a fact that album did not, they thought, okay, Dawn's gone, whatever. We're going to do EV3 and we're going to put EV3 out, even though my vocals were supposed to be wiped clean of that album. I can hear me all over that record.
Okay, in all the Wikipedias and stuff, it says they re-recorded the vocals without you, but
no.
Yeah,
oh,
okay.
No.
But
no,
I think
Cindy did add a couple parts on, like what is this? Whatever, the song "Whatever" by Babyface. They recorded my part over, but I can hear myself in the. Babyface admitted it. He's like, I couldn't take you off the song.
Yeah.
I had to pull your vocals back in the cut, so I pulled you way back in the track. But you can still hear you because I needed you there. You were the glue that kept En Vogue together. One piece missing out of a group, it's not the group anymore. So he was like, I'm not taking you all the way out 100%.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember when the album it came out, and it just seeing the three of them. I think for the whole community, everyone said, "No, we're not. We couldn't invest in something that's not legit. It just didn't seem right."
Wow.
Wow. Because it's. I'm just trying to think. Can you imagine if when you have you guys were very fortunate you didn't really have lead singers, but imagine intro. Kenny G passes away, and then you want to still have intro. It doesn't work. Or when or when Freddie Mercury passed away, and Queen said, "Well, we're going to release it." Well, no, your lead singer's gone. There is the spark in there, and I think you leaving at that critical. I mean, most of the fans. Now, I must admit, as fans, we were like, oh, we had the placards down with Dawn. How could she leave?
Of course.
Especially after that, because all we saw was, the biggest hit, and then you just disappeared. There was no sort of, you didn't come out and say.
I didn't have the power of the press to be able to tell my side of the story.
Yeah.
I was just as shocked. I was depressed for a very long time. Almost didn't get out of bed for a while.
Wow.
Because I didn't like it. And I saw the album cover and I felt the same way with just the three of them. I'm like, wow, I helped build that group. Maxine, Cindy, and Terry did not speak for me on my behalf and say, wait a minute, we can't kick Dawn out. That's what I'm saying. It's like, You kick me out of the group, but you keep Terry, and Terry's the one who did the solo album first. There was
Now,
no reason for them to kick me out. I didn't do anything wrong. So
now,
that's why I still,
yeah.
to this day, it's like, it's so shitty to me. And I have to say it like that because that's exactly what it was. You guys held me accountable or held me to a certain standard that you did not hold Terry to. But Terry did her solo album first and you kept her in the group. I did my solo album second and you kicked me out of the group. I don't understand that.
Yeah, and you know, and I remember speaking, interviewing Timmy Gatlin from Guy about the same sort of situation where he's, you know, the manager pops in and pushes him out, and how the album comes out with his picture, but he's not in any of the videos and stuff,
Wow.
and and
Wow.
and you know, you Groove Me comes out and he's there writing the song, but then when the video comes out, he sees the album, biggest thing, his pictures on it, but he's not in any of the videos and stuff.
Oh, why didn't
And
he sue? That's different. That's a little more blatant.
no, well, no, so yeah, so
Wow.
but I think from his point of view, it was that sense of, you know, Teddy Riley and Aaron Hall, how come you guys did not stand
Didn't
up
have his
for me?
back. Yep.
But then I think there's that recollection that people, when you have an opportunity, there's a fear that if we do take your side, we all lose out and we all go out. And so that sense of you're facing almost Armageddon and you're not sure what to do, you always go
No,
for the
because
safest option.
I understand the fear because we don't know what a record company is capable of, especially at that time. Now it would have been like, fuck you guys, fuck the record company, fuck Denny and Tommy. We are all standing together. We are En Vogue. And without us, Cindy, Terry, Maxine, and Dawn, we have solidarity. Without us four, you don't have an album. Without us four, you don't have revenue at the end of the year for the record company to be able to make those millions that they were making off of us.
Mm.
We were the ones who had the power. Ah, what happened?
Oh, stepped out.
I
Okay,
am so sorry. Yes,
that's fine.
my car insurance company calls right in the middle of the
That's
but
fine. That's why it's
oh, I forgot what
pre-recorded,
it
so
was.
it's easier to edit. So
You can edit that out. Good. I
yeah,
forgot what I was saying. Do you know
no,
what I
so,
was saying?
yeah, no. So yeah, so as I said, the album comes out. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do well at all. As I said, we look at it and say, oh, it's not the same sort of thing, and it doesn't do well. From your point of view, and I know you mentioned you were struggling just, you know, seeing it being promoted, but when you noticed it wasn't doing well and it wasn't well received, especially after your first two albums, what were you thinking about what was going on? Oh,
I was
about
so happy.
okay.
I'm not gonna lie about it. I was happy because they did the wrong thing.
Hmm.
This is my point. We had agreed on something, the four of us together, without the record company, without our producers, without our management. We four agreed. Maxine, Cindy, the four girls that make this group what it is, these plaques on the wall.
Hmm.
We made all the people that have these plaques rich. If it wasn't for us four, they wouldn't have had those and the money
Yeah.
that went with them. We didn't have the money, but we had the plaques.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, so if we agreed that we were not going to do a certain thing or that we were going to stand down and stand in solidarity with each other, then why didn't they have my back when I was being kicked out? I don't understand that. I get it that you guys are afraid, but we have power. And I guess they didn't know how much power we really had at that time.
Yeah,
Um,
but you also have to, I'm always going to reflect back to you started off by portraying a very strong role model in your life who
mhm.
did something that most families wouldn't do, and
What's that?
your mum taking you guys from Connecticut
Oh, my
to,
mother. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That,
without
okay, got it.
seeing where she was going, and she was like, "We're going to be strong. I'm going to do this."
Hmm.
Now that's
Yep.
so you set almost like you're writing a story, and you pretty much this is the beginning, and so it makes sense how you have this sense of no fear, we can take risk. You have
Hmm.
then so then I listen to that, and I start reflecting, well, does everyone else have that same, could they start off with a story like that? And if
No.
they don't, it's quite
But
easy
I
to just,
told them, but I told them in that meeting, that last meeting in Terry's room, in the hotel room, in front of Sylvia Rome from the label, in front of our managers, and in front of our attorneys who were also in the room. I said, Cindy and Maxine, you guys one day could be in the same position as me, sitting right here on the hot seat, being kicked out of the group just like me. And Cindy was like, yeah, I got to think about that. Yeah. So I warned them. It wasn't, and then Maxine ended up getting kicked out 2 years after me. Same thing.
yeah. But then, okay, but so if, yeah, so as I said, it is something, but so the album doesn't do well.
Right.
There's somebody asked a question here. D Hawk was asking, how was it mentally for you in the midst of being sort of they've moved on without you, and that sense of no
It was
deal.
horrible. I mean, think about it. Just
Mm.
I know people are asking questions, but just think about what that would mean. See, it's totally different when you're in the limelight. If a job kicks, you get fired from your 9 to 5 job,
Yeah,
you and your family may know about it. You and a few coworkers talk about it, and that's about it. You go on with your day, you get your check, and you never go back to that job again.
yeah,
And it doesn't affect you as much. You might be a little bit upset about it,
mm,
but you go on and find a new job and you figure it out, and you're not embarrassed by the job going on without you.
yeah,
But in this case, it was huge.
yeah,
Yeah, and Vogue was massive around the world, so of course I was numb.
yeah.
I was bitter, I was angry, I was sad, I was like, I called Maxine the next day after that meeting, and I said, Max, okay, I've decided that uh, you know I forgot what I told her, and I'm gonna. And she said, no, we already decided that you're out, Dawn. And I was like, what? What do you mean I'm out? Like, this is not fair. You guys are not talking to me about anything. You're just deciding that I'm out of the group. And she kind of like, I gotta go. I'm going to rehearsal. What? Okay, what? So we were supposed to have a fitting to do the cover for Don't Let Go. And I went to that meeting. I'm sorry, I went to that fitting and I did the photo shoot.
Had the video come
And
out?
then Sydney, it was, huh?
Did the video had it already come out by the meeting?
No, we had done the video, but we didn't do the photo shoot for the
Okay.
single cover. So this is what we were doing, the fitting for the single. I said video, but I meant the single cover. And my manager called me and she said, Dawn, because she's from London, she says, Dawn, Dawnie, that you have to leave. The girls don't want you there. Huh? No, I'm not leaving, Trudy. Yes, Dawn, you have to leave. The girls don't want you there. I said, well, I'm going to take a few pictures before I leave. So I tried on a few clothes because I was there first.
Yeah.
And the girls didn't want me there. And it was just nasty. It was so nasty in hindsight. You know, it wouldn't be so bad if, okay, that was an isolated situation. They didn't know any better. This was early back in the day before we knew the power that we really had as En Vogue. But when I came back in 2009,
Oh no, before we get there though, because we did,
okay,
yeah.
all
And I
right, I'm
think,
jumping ahead, huh?
yeah, I think what people have to realize that so Sylvia Rohn, who ran Elektra, was one of the first black female label executives, and she's responsible for a lot of careers from Keith Sweat, Yolanda Adams, Missy, lots of people. But there is the achievement as a black record executive, but there is the sense of
Incredible.
also playing, really successful, built a lot of good bands and stuff. But I think if people who study the industry from the outside in understand that you do that there, it's a hard game to try and fight. I spoke to Rift, Nitty Green and Rift, and how they when they lost their record deal with SBK, they got blacklisted by everybody, and they said don't sign them, and everyone
Wow.
sort of comes together and says, "Yep, if we're working as a clan here. If one group doesn't want you, we're not coming in." So
Wow.
it's I won't call it a boys club, but it's a close. They
It
protect
is.
themselves, and it's quite easy to get blacklisted, and people can be afraid to stand
Yes.
up against them. So imagine these three thinking, "Oh, if we stand up
No.
against us," no, I don't know. As I said, I'm just
Well, I'm trying to tell you just because you're talking along, and I don't want to cut in, but
yeah. Go
it
ahead.
was different with En Vogue was global.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
We had a lot more power. I don't know who Riff is. I'm sure they're amazing, but I don't know who they are over here. So when it came to En Vogue, we had more power. Of course, they were afraid. I get it. I really do. But Terry's indignant answer to me when I asked what was different about me doing a solo album than Terry. She did a solo album and I did one. So you're kicking me out of the group, but Terry's staying in the group. What's different about Terry turned to me and said that, not the record label. So Terry had it in for me. I don't know what it was, but like I said, and it made common sense that when I called Maxine the next day, it was just her and I on the phone. So without the record company around, without our producers and all these people that would intimidate you, it's just us. Let's get Cindy and Terry on the phone so that we can make sure, like, okay, Dawn, you were right what you said. It's just the four of us. Terry did a solo album, but we're kicking you out for doing the same thing. So we need to talk about this because you're absolutely right. It's not fair. And we need to find out what our rights are and go to our attorney. You know, when we first left the MC Hammer tour, we did an MC Hammer tour in 1990. Yeah, our first year. we did a promo tour. We went overseas. We came back, and then MC Hammer asked us to do a tour with him. And I guess Cindy had a conversation with him, and she told him that we were only making 2 pennies a record, and he was dumbfounded. He could not believe it. Like, what is going on? You ladies are the biggest things on the charts, and you're only making 2 cents a record. Okay, when we get back from the tour, I'm going to pay for you guys to go see my attorney in Los Angeles, bring your contracts and ask questions, figure it out. In other words, Cindy, Terry, and Maxine could have said the same thing. Let's figure this out. Let's figure it out before we kick you out of the group. We can do the same thing that MC Hammer did in 1990. This is 97, 7 years later, and we're no smarter than we were back then.
No,
If
but
MC Hammer said take the time to find out what's going on, then they should have done the same thing.
I thought Sylvia Rowan said you're out of the group, and they have
She
to.
gave me an ultimatum. She was putting on her coat because she had a flight to catch back to New York. She said so, and she stood up and she said, "So we need to know if you're going to be in the group or not." And I said right then on the spot, "Well, if you're asking me if I'm going to leave and be on my own," I said, "It's been 8 years. We've been with you for 8 years now. And all of a sudden, I have to believe that you have our backs after 8 years. Where were you 8 years ago? 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago? Where were you then? Now all of a sudden you have our backs, and I'm supposed to believe it's going to be different now than it was 8 years ago." And that's when she said, "Well, I guess you're pretty much saying that you're out." And I was like, "I don't know. I have to think about it." And I got on the elevator. We all went downstairs at the same time, and I was kind of out of body because this is my life. I helped build this for 8 years, and now you're telling me that I have to decide if I have to. So basically, this is how I always put it. If you want to compromise with someone, you give them a choice. You don't say it's our way or you're out. And that's what they were basically doing. I said to her, I said, "So you're just saying now I'm out of the group? That because I'm not complying with what you want me to do, that I'm out of this group? That's what you're telling me? That's not fair." You know, and I kept saying, Terry did a solo album too. And I did the same thing. You came to me to do the solo album. I did the solo album on Atlantic Records with you, Sylvia Rowan. You offered Terry a solo album. She did her solo album. You offered me a solo album. I started recording mine and didn't even finish when you came to tell me that we're doing the En Vogue album. So
then,
I took it upon myself, you know.
So when E3 didn't do well, did Sylvia drop them, or did she just give them another chance?
No, because she did Masterpiece Theater. Remember, that came after EV3.
Okay, and
So,
that, yeah, okay, I can't even remember that album. But then,
yeah, it's such a great album, though. I gotta say, I love EV3. It just hurts my heart to hear it because I can hear my voice, but I never got paid for that album. So
yeah.
that's hard.
So then, when
But
did So if we shift from En Vogue for a second and go to the next, we saw you on Lucy Pearl, and this was
Yeah.
it was almost like the Renegades, the sort of we 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 had Raphael Sadiq, who had just fallen out with Tony,
Hmm.
and then is it Mohammed, who came from Tribe Called Quest?
Yes, but they were amicable. The way that they walked away from Tribe Called Quest was amicable. But the Tonys had riffs all the time. It was Ali, Raphael Sadiq, and Dwayne, his brother, would
Yeah,
always have falling outs. Yeah, not like normal family stuff. And then
yeah.
me from En Vogue. So yeah, we were the Renegades.
So when you guys came together, it was it seems like it caused a lot of it made a lot of the press because
Mm.
we saw the three of you from we'd known the three coming together. It was almost like one of the first super groups because we have
It was.
Keith Sweat,
Yeah, they were
Johnny
after
Gill, and
us.
Ella, yeah,
Yeah,
afterwards. So back then it was really big, and then you had the dance with Don't Dance with My Man was such a really steady banger, real stuff. How did
exactly. Thank you.
approach you to come join in with that, and what was going on there?
Well, I had several deals on the table for my solo rights, and I had a manager at the time, Cassandra Mills, brilliant black woman in the business. She had run Giant Records. It was a big deal.
Mhm.
She's the one who created Jade, the singing group Jade.
Okay, with
She came,
Jade.
yeah, she put them together. So now that Giant Records dissolved, it was no longer a label. She became a manager, and I forgot how she found me, but she was like, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you about management." And I went to her house in Beverly Hills, and her condo, I'm sorry, in Beverly Hills, and we talked. And I liked what she had to say. I thought she was strong. I knew that she knew labels because let me turn on this light over here. I knew that she knew labels because she had run one.
Mm.
So I was like, "Heck yeah, you want to manage me?" Because she knew her stuff. And I once we started working together, I started to see little discrepancies, and she was trying to make it seem like I was a newbie, like I didn't know what I was doing. And we had a meeting set up with Virgin Records and hold on, I'm sorry, Virgin Records and whoo, oh my god, and she didn't like what I was wearing, so she literally called Virgin Records. And she was looking me up and down, and she's like, I do not like this. I felt like I was 2 years old. So she gets on her phone. She's like, "Yeah, this is Cassandra Mills. I have a meeting today with blah blah blah, and I have Dawn Robinson, and we're gonna cancel and reschedule for next week because she didn't like what I was wearing. Like literally, I could not believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, she acted like I was brand new. And so the next week, I got to her house or condo again, and she was like, "Okay, I don't like this either, but it's better than last week, so let's go." And we went to the meeting. Like she didn't like what I wore again. And I was like, "Who do you think you are? I come from En Vogue, and I'm a fashion queen." You know what I mean? Um, but she was just overbearing and way too controlling. And so when Raphael contacted her to tell her that he has an idea for a group, she told him no without even telling me, "Hey, Dawn, Raphael Sadiq hit me up from Tony, and he's got a group idea, and he wants to do this super group with you and Ali Shaheed Muhammad." She didn't even tell me that the possibility was there. And she told him no before she even told me that. And I was like, "Okay, we got to part ways." So I fired her. And I called Raphael and I said, "Hey, I found out that you have this idea for a group. What is this?" And he said, "Yeah, Ali and me and you and Vogue and Tribe Called Quest and Tony. It just makes sense for us to come together and do this great idea." I was like, "I am down. And yes, when do we start?" Because I never wanted to leave En Vogue in the first place. Like I said, I didn't want to go
Mm.
solo. So it was better for me to be in the group situation. I felt protected. I had known Raphael since we were 16. So on
Oh
my
yeah,
dad,
Bay Area as well. Yeah.
Bay Area, yeah, both of us. In fact, Denny and Tommy, Denzel Foster, Thomas McGora had the Tonys before they had En Vogue.
Yeah.
So I asked Raphael when I got in the group with him, I said, did Denny ever talk to you crazy, like tell you to shut the fuck up? Or go the fuck home. He's like, what? Oh, hell no. He's like, no, Denny never talked to us like that. The way that Denny talked to us in the studio was exactly that way. If he got pissed at us for something, he would tell us to shut the fuck up. Y'all go the, and again, I was like, okay, after a while, at first I was like, oh, Denny, don't say that. Oh, no. And we would leave. But after a while, I was like, okay, you guys, it's becoming a habit that Denny talks to us this way. So I know I'm going back talking about En Vogue again, but that was the mentality. When you said fear-based, or are you talking about how they were fearful of approaching the record company saying, this is wrong that we're kicking Dawn out of the group? The mentality that they had with allowing Denny to talk to us the way that he did is indicative of exactly their mindset. Yeah, you're right about that.
Pre-Me Too, because a lot of that was going on across the entertainment, across the world, and there was no voice. I mean, I think
not just in entertainment.
No, yeah, across the world, across in different areas, and I think
in people's homes.
If this had happened now, it's quite easy for if because now if this was brought up, people again losing their jobs for stuff they did 20, 30 years ago. But Raphael talks to you about the group. Now you must have had a little bit more knowledge about labels and deals and stuff. What was the situation when he said, "Look, hey, Lucy Pearl"? Did you look at the contract and think, okay, I'm not going to get 2 cents a record and stuff?
I didn't do the right thing because, like I said, Raphael, I had known him literally since we were both 16 years old. So he played in my band in San Francisco. I knew him. I was comfortable with him. He was like my brother. And we had grown up together. So I didn't feel like he was going to step on me with that contract. I thought he was going to be fair and have my back. And he did not. So that was on me. I didn't read the contract. I read it, but I didn't redline it and go through it with a fine-tooth comb like I did the En Vogue contract. And I just signed it as it was, and it wasn't a good contract at all. And I didn't know that until after the fact. It was too late by then. So yeah, it was a totally different situation.
So was that sort of the reasons why the you did sort of a couple of singles, and then after first that you decided to leave after the first album?
No, they kicked me out as well. Raphael didn't like the fact. No, so what? First of all, Lucy Pearl was I'm so tired. I'm trying to get the light right because the sun is going down. I apologize. Everybody's gonna be like, "Be still, be still." But Lucy Pearl from the very beginning was a one-off, and Raphael, he just didn't like the fact that I was getting all the attention. And we were actually in London the first time that I noticed his jealousy of me was in Vegas. We were here in Vegas, but I wasn't living here yet. And we were doing Sprite Night for the Billboard Awards. And so sorry. We were doing Sprite Night for the Billboard Awards. And I have to get near the plug so that this light stays on when the sun goes down. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
So we were doing the Sprite Night, and one of the journalists walked over to us to do an interview, and he stood between me and, so we were standing up against the wall waiting for, it's like all the tables have different countries and different parts of the country here in America as well. So you'll see Colorado over there, you'll see Cincinnati over there, you'll see Australia back there, you'll see, you know what I mean? It was all these different tables that you go to do interviews. And you sit down at the table and you do an interview. And so we were waiting for our next interview, and a guy named Lee Bailey walks over to us, and he's an older man. So he's got on his hat that he always wears and his glasses, and he takes out a dictaphone out of his pocket. He's got on like a jacket pocket, and he takes out a dictaphone, little recorder. And he steps in between. Ali was to my right and Raphael was to my left, and we were just standing there waiting. And Lee Bailey steps in between me and Raphael. What did he do that for? Raphael was like, "Excuse me, don't you fucking see I'm standing here?" And he walked away. And I was like, I looked at Ali and I was like, we're done. We're done. Because you don't want that kind of reputation out there that you curse somebody out for no reason. And Lee Bailey didn't even, luckily, he didn't think twice about it. He didn't think, oh, that was rude. He might have been thinking it was rude, but he didn't care. You know what I mean? He kept going with us. And he was like, well, everybody wants to talk to Dawn Robinson, En Vogue. And he did the little he did our interview right there, standing there with the little dictaphone with me and Ali, because Raphael walked away. And then our first time in London, same thing. Raphael did not like the fact that everybody wanted to talk to me. He had a problem with that. He didn't like it at all. And one of the journalists, when we get overseas, we have to do a series of like all day interviews. You start from 8 a.m. in the morning. If you get a little time to eat breakfast, and then if you can eat a little lunch in between, but you're doing interview after interview after interview, because it's not like we're going to come overseas every other day, and you guys don't see us that often. So once we get there, whether it's Japan or London or wherever, Germany, they have a slew of interviews for us to do. So we were doing probably our 12th interview, and Raphael was tired of everybody all the journalists asking about me, asking me questions more than anybody else. And so it was our fifth interview that day. And the woman said, so Dawn, she kept asking me questions. And Raphael sat up, he was sitting on the couch, but he was leaning back. And he sat up and he said, what the fuck? Don't you see we're sitting here too? Like Ali and I, because I was sitting in the middle of, it was Raphael on the right, on my left, and Raphael, Ali on my right. And he looked at Ali and he said, don't you see us sitting here? We've done shit in our careers as well. What the fuck? You're not talking to us at all. And she said, Dawn has done a lot more. A lot more. And I was like, oh my God. And I mean, after that, I tried to play small. I remember kind of shrinking down like, oh, that doesn't feel good. But a lot of the world does not know who the Tonys are. They may not know who Tribe Called Quest is, but they know who En Vogue is. We were much bigger. And so that's what she was trying to tell him. She wasn't trying to put him down. She was just telling him the truth. Dawn has done a lot more. When we got to Germany, maybe 3 days later or so, all of Germany wanted to talk to Ali. Only Ali. It was a hip hop extravaganza. Like, I was like, oh my God, we got to go to lunch then. We're going to let him do his interviews by himself, because they loved hip hop there. It was a hip hop culture. And Ali was like, oh my God. He said, you guys know more about Tribe Called Quest than I do. I have to do my research. That's how much they want to talk to him. And I was like, see, Raphael, they don't want to talk to me and you. And I'm not upset about that. Like, this is Ali's thing. Let him have his moment. Why be jealous of him? Because they don't want to talk to us. It was childish. It was very childish. And I also, when we got to Paris, I brought a article from Gwen Stefani and No Doubt. And she was talking about the fact that the guys in her group, because it was a band that started out as a garage band together, garage, as you guys say, a garage band. She was saying that the guys were jealous of her, and they didn't understand why she got all the limelight at first. And she was like, first of all, I'm a girl. Anytime there's a girl in a group, the girl always gets more attention. That's one. Second of all, you guys are not going to be on the cover of Vogue magazine, because girls don't get on the cover of Vogue magazine. I do. So when I get on the cover of Vogue magazine, I bring back more attention and more stardom and more focus on the group. Everybody wins when I win. So stop being a little bitch, stop being little bitches, and make sure that let's get this money, let's get paid. And they did. Yeah. And that's what I was trying to tell Raphael. He came to my room in Amsterdam. We were still overseas, but we were in Amsterdam by then. And he said, Dawn, I'm trying to make this work. I said, Raphael, this was the other thing that I had a problem with, because we were supposed to have our album out by June. Here we are in November. Our album wasn't out. And I was like, Raphael, the bank has been calling me about my house. Wow. I'm going to lose my house. And I was telling him prior to that, I need money. I need a little bit of money. And it wasn't a lot. It was what, $1,500 was my mortgage, $1,500. So, and he told me when I signed to Lucy Pearl, because I turned down a deal with Bob Jameson. Like I said, I had a few deals on the table. Bob Jameson was at RCA, and he flew me to New York, and I had a deal on the table with him. And I turned that down to do Lucy Pearl. So if I had your back, you should have my back like you said you would, because he told me, I don't have a lot of money to give you up front, but I can figure out how to find what you need if you need it. And I was like, cool. If you just, if that's what if you're telling me that when I'm down on my luck, or I need a little bit of money, you're going to figure out how to help me out, then cool, I'll sign with you. And I signed that deal. So now here it is, we're in November and we were supposed to put out the album in June. The bank is calling, they're knocking on my door and I need to pay my mortgage. And he was like, well, I don't know what to tell you, every man for himself. But you told me that if I sign with you that you'd have my back. And now you're saying every man for himself? Like, what? He's like, yeah, we'll call the woman at Overbrook who was doing the soundtrack for Love and Basketball. Her name is Pilar. Pilar, I forgot her last name. He said, call Pilar and let her know that you're going to do the soundtrack by yourself. I was like, Raphael, that is bad business beyond. That's like so unprofessional on every level. Yeah. You don't do that. Like, you just don't do that. If I call Pilar and tell her that I'm going to do the song by myself, she's going to be frantic. First of all, she had it in line for Lucy Pearl to do the song for the soundtrack Love and Basketball. And so here I am calling her. So I called her because he said, call her. And I did. And I said, Pilar, this is Dawn. I'm going to do the soundtrack alone. She's like, huh? What? I don't understand. So wait a minute. So it's not going to be Lucy Pearl. I don't understand what happened. I was like, oh my God. Okay. I can't explain. So I said, don't worry about it. Lucy Pearl's going to do the soundtrack. And I ended up literally losing my house. So as far as everybody's like, oh, we need a reunion, you know, Lucy Pearl. I'm like, I have tried. I really have. I've given it a shot or two. We've had conversations. At one point, we were going to have Raphael, myself, and Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest, because Ali was doing other projects. He didn't want to be a part of it. So he gave us his blessing, and we were going to do that with Q-Tip. And then after a while, it was just me and Q-Tip on the phone and no Raphael. And he said every now and then Raphael gets like this, he disappears. I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, we're supposed to be talking about a reunion or getting together to do a new project together as Lucy Pearl, and Raphael just doesn't show up. He doesn't call us. Like, I don't understand. And so it never happened. But about a year ago, I was watching MTV. And they had this thing called Beats, Rhymes, and Rhythms. And it was on Tribe Called Quest. And I was watching. And I remembered that Fife would always big me up. My man, Albie Shore, he's in effect mode. Used to have a crush on Dawn from En Vogue. It's not like Honey Dip will want to get with me. But just in case I got on condoms and TLC. He would do that. He did it twice on TLC's album, Crazy Sexy Cool album. And then he did it on, I want to not Check the Rhyme, but Can I Kick It, maybe? He did it on that. Anyway, it was a Tribe Called Quest song. And he did it on that one first, and then he did it on Crazy Sexy Cool album. And so him and I had a conversation on, it was Twitter. We had a conversation on Twitter before he passed away. And I was like, I need you to give me some hits. Like, I need a song. We need to do a song together called Crush. And use your 16 bars from, you know, my man, I'll be sure he's in effect mode. Use that for the song. And he's like, oh my God, word. So I'm going to get you some tracks. But he was too sick and he never got me the tracks. So when he passed away, I left him a message on Twitter. And I said, I know you're gone. Trust me when I say that you'll never be forgotten. We love you. We love the work that you did. Now you're at peace. And I said, I'm going to do that song called, Crush in Your Name. And I'm going to dedicate it to you because you always had me in mind whenever you did a little piece of a song. And I appreciate you for that. I love you for that. So when I was watching Beats, Rhymes, and Rhythm, I picked up the phone and I called Ali right then. And I was like, Ali, I'm watching these things about you guys on TV. He's like, oh, it's on again? He said, yeah, they came on one time before. We talked a little bit. And he said, Raphael wants you to call him. I was like, every time you tell me Raphael wants me to call him, I give you my number or him to call me, and he never calls. I said, so give him my number, have him call me. And then when we hung up, I was like, no, I lost my house. I lost my house with this man. Are you kidding me? I have nothing to say to Raphael. No. I'm not doing anything with him until he makes amends with me. He has to apologize. That's not a small thing. It's not like I lost a favorite pen that I had, or I left my wallet in his car, or a jacket that I left behind in his car. This is my house, meaning that my equity was affected, meaning that my Oh my God, the money that I put into the house, my equity, like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
my down
yeah.
payment, I lost all of that. My credit is still
Credit.
affected to this day. My credit is
Wow.
affected. Yeah. So I said, until he makes amends and apologizes to me for that, I don't want to talk to Raphael about anything else. There's nothing we have to discuss.
Mm.
Um,
So,
yeah.
I mean,
So I'm sorry, I talked a
yeah,
lot.
no, 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 no. So I think just as we finish up, there was a couple of questions that a lot of the that some of the fans put through. They another
Yeah.
thing they wanted to find out, do you think, this is Ether King, do you think En Vogue set the standard for vocal ranges among R&B girl groups?
That we've set the vocal standards for?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
you came out, do you think you set the vocal standards for
Heck
R&B
yeah.
girl groups?
Oh, yes, exactly. I do. Hello. What's his name again? Ether?
This was Ether King, yeah.
Ether King. Yes. Hi, Ether. Yeah, we did. We set that standard not just for girl groups, but for boy bands as well. I remember the first time, what's his name? What their name? Color Me
Boy,
Bad did their acceptance speech. They did it live, just like us, singing, Thank you. Yeah, they did. So, yeah, we set the standard very high. We did.
were there any rivals? I mean, would you look, Jodeci would look at Boys to Men and say they were their sort of evil twins, sort of the
Yeah.
preppy. But when En Vogue came out, who were you guys looking at and thinking, hmm, competition in a way from the girl
Well,
groups?
we were the first ones to come out. We were the first girl group in 1990. So there was no Jade, SWV, Destiny's Child. There was no TLC, Moke and Steph. There was no um, ex-girlfriend, black girl. None of those girl groups were out yet. I think Your Sweetness Is My Weakness. What is that girl group? The Good
Good girls,
Girls.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. They were out, but they weren't nothing like En Vogue. And I'm not playing them any shade or nothing like that, but it was just night and day. It wasn't
okay,
even, yeah, they weren't on our level and they weren't singing like us, like harmony wise or anything. They just weren't. So I think the closest a girl group got to En Vogue was maybe Escape vocally. Oh, what is that song they have? That they sing. Yeah, I think that they were the only ones. I can't think of the song. It was a ballad.
yeah. Who do you run to?
Who do you run to? Who do I run to?
Who do I run
But
to?
they were
Yeah.
also, yeah, they were also liking themselves in that song. It was an old Jones Girls song.
Mm.
So they kind of did exactly what Jones Girls did. So I would say Brownstone, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Each group would do a couple of little harmonies and stuff like that, but they still weren't prevalent with their harmonies the way that we were.
Yeah,
So and I love the fact that all the girl groups had their own thing.
yeah,
They weren't trying to be like En Vogue. They had their own signature sound. SWV had their own signature sound.
yeah.
Um, Destiny's Child would always give us our props whenever they would do, an interview. SWV wasn't so nice to us in the press, but now, Coco and I love each other. And every time we see each other, she supported me the other day. I did an interview and she was on there and
Wow.
she supported me. Yeah. And I support her. I love her dog. And, we did a play together. So she's like my sister without being a sister.
Yeah. Then the other questions they had is it true? This is Precious Williams. Is it true that for the 30th anniversary of En Vogue's
Mhm.
debut album, that she feels Rhonda shouldn't be involved?
It's Rona. First of
Rona,
all, it's
sorry.
Rona. Rona. That's all right. Yeah, it is true. I hold no bars about that. Because that's my opinion. We created En Vogue together. Rona wasn't there for that. She wasn't there for the beginning when we were, rolling around and living out of our suitcases to make En Vogue what it was. So I just think that in 2010, when we came back together to do the 20th year anniversary, Rona sat it out. She wasn't with us. And I respected that. And I thought that she should do the same thing for our 30th anniversary. And she didn't do that. So Cindy and Terry feel like she's been with them longer than Maxine and I at this point. And
Mm,
she has. She's been with them 13 years. I think we were together 8 years when I left the group.
mm,
But it doesn't matter. She wasn't there from the beginning. So she shouldn't be there now. Right now, a fan told me the other day that Rona is celebrating her anniversary with the Mickey Mouse Club, that she did the Mickey Mouse Club show. Or I don't know if it was a TV show or a stage show, but she's celebrated 30 years with them. Were we
mm.
a part of that? No. I wasn't invited. Terry wasn't invited. I don't think Cindy and Maxine were invited either. So
Mm.
why should she be a part of something that she wasn't there for? So that's my stand.
So and somebody else did ask that why En Vogue couldn't do a 5-piece like New Edition when they
Because
brought
I don't
in
want to do a 5-piece like a new edition. That's why.
when they brought in Johnny
Because
Gill.
I don't think that the blend is there. I don't think her harmonies blend with us. She's much taller than the rest of us. It just is not a good fit. That
Mm.
was something that Cindy and Terry brought her in. Cindy and Terry need, when they have a 13-year anniversary with Rona, then they can celebrate that. And Maxine and I won't be a part of it. But right now, Rona has been a part of the group for 13 years that Maxine and I have not been able to be a part. They kicked me out. They
Mm.
didn't fight to keep me in the group. So why are they fighting to keep Rona in the group?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fair to me. So there's a lot of things that I look at, like it wasn't fair. And I told them in a meeting that we had just before we did this charity event last year, maybe 2 months before that charity event, and we all came together. Rona was there. I said to Cindy, it was just Cindy and I going back and forth about why Rona should be a part of the reunion. And I said, it's not fair that you guys are fighting so hard to keep her in this group, but you didn't fight this hard to keep me there. You didn't stand up for me. You didn't say anything on my behalf. You did not have my back the way that you're having Rona's back. Rona didn't help build En Vogue. Rona didn't build the foundation that En Vogue is built on. That was the hard work that I put in.
Yeah.
So why are you you're so busy trying to fight so hard for her, but you didn't fight at all for me.
Mm.
In '97, when Sylvia Rhone said you can't be in this group, you guys were like, okay, Dawn is out. But you're fighting so hard to keep Rona. Like, I have a problem with that. And I took offense. So her and I were going back and forth, and I was like, well, we have to agree to disagree. If there's going to be a reunion happening in 2020 next year, because this was last year, like I said,
Yeah.
then if she's a part of it, then I'm not going to be in it. I'm
Yeah.
not.
So I think the one of the final things is just in the midst after pandemic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's any plans going for the New Year's music wise or anything for people to look out for?
Yes, I am. I'm so proud of this. I just started my own label, Stiletto Entertainment, and I was going to do a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for, well, and I'm also doing my autobiographical book. So I'm writing
Okay.
my life story, or not life from childhood, but there's a piece of that in there because it has to talk about when my father discovered my talent as a little girl. So there's just one little story in there about that. So, but it basically chronicalizes my time with En Vogue and Lucy Pearl. A
Okay.
little bit of Lucy Pearl at the very end, because I want to give Lucy Pearl his own book. um, I think that time with Lucy Pearl is deserving of its own story.
Mm.
It was such a great group, and I want to give it the life and the love that it deserves. So that'll
Mm.
be separate from the En Vogue album. But yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm doing all three of those projects. I'm not so sure on the crowdfunding thing. I may get an investor instead and have that. It just depends on how I want to return the money to. You do an ROI for the fans. You don't have to do anything on crowdfunding, but it's a little bit difficult because I don't want to ask fans for money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a little tricky for me. So yeah, I haven't figured that out yet, but
Okay.
I'm working on a solo album, and I'm sorry, that money that I get will garner me to be able to fund doing my solo album, because you have to
Okay.
have not just the songs, but you also have marketing money. You have to do a few videos that costs money. You
Yeah.
got to do a new photo shoot that costs money. You got to pay for. You don't have to pay to stream, but you got to pay for certain outlets on digital outlets out there. So there's money that's required to do my
Yeah.
project. Yeah.
Okay. I think I think what's been interesting and fascinating is, this just sheds further light into the 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 tough industry of the music business, because it
Mm.
gives you this glamorous, because it gives you a feel good factor when we hear the songs, but behind the songs and behind the scenes, it's not
Behind
always
the
been that.
music.
Behind the music, it's not always been that great, and
Yeah.
unfortunately for us, you know, more so than ever, it's been black music seems to be, it still seems to be the cradle of where a lot of these issues still arise,
Yeah,
and it doesn't
it
seem to,
is.
yeah, it's just been, it's really unfortunate. But hearing your own
But
story.
again, but
Go
you
ahead.
also have the great stories of artists who have made it and got the right deal and stood up for themselves. I mean, that's all it requires. A
Yeah.
lot of times we as people are just afraid to say, you know, we don't want to go against our job, our 9 to 5. So that's why we have a union to speak for us, and to stand up and say we need higher, wages and lower taxes, and we need to have better health care for our children.
Mm.
And if nobody is there to do that, in our case, we had a manager, but he was not willing to he wasn't able to step in and do the things that were necessary for us to have a better situation. And
Mm.
I was telling them the whole time, as soon as I started to wake up and it was like ding, 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 the light went off in my head. And I was
Mhm.
just thinking, how come, we don't have the same amount of money as our producers? And how come they're making so much money? And how come our choreographer has a mansion and our manager has a mansion, but we don't have one?
Yeah.
All the lights, all the bells and whistles started going off. And I was like, okay, this is a bad situation. And I think that's why the label got rid of me, because I was asking the questions that they did not want
Mm.
asked.
Yeah.
They knew that I understood what was going on. I got it. I was like, oh boy. And so they knew that if I was awake, I was also going to wake up Cindy, Terry, and Maxine. And they didn't want that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So we kind of lost out, and
Yeah.
Vogue fell apart, and it wasn't fair. It was so unnecessary what happened to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we lost our momentum. So even though I came back to the group several times over the years, they would call me, how bad can Dawn be? Because they put it out that I was so difficult, I was a bitch, I was a troublemaker. But how bad can Dawn be when you guys called me back to the group? I can't call myself back to the group. It's up to you guys to have me back.
And I guess if
And I
promoters
did.
are saying, look, we can give you this amount for the three of you, but we can give you this amount if you get the original lineup,
They
it
still
then,
didn't have to have me. They don't have me now. They haven't had me for 13 years.
yeah. But if you're talking about doing shows, if
They
promote.
still make more money without Maxine and I there, because they get the same amount of money that they would have with us. They get without us.
Okay.
So they get to split Maxine's fee and they get to split my fee between Cindy and Terry, and then pay Rona whatever you guys want, because she's a newbie. They can pay her whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In other words, they are the founding members, so they can get paid more than Rona.
Mm.
And without Maxine and I there, they don't have to pay us.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I think there were two things before finishing off. Was one of them was Pastor Mike was such a massive hit. A lot of people reminisce about the 90s and stuff, and I didn't know if you had the opportunity to bless us with a version. I mean, I did have um, the mix of Don't Let Go, the original version. I don't know if you want to
Oh
just
no. Ah!
be able to sing along with it. I will.
Yes, I would love that. I gotta set myself back up though. That's why I said, oh no, because
Okay.
I lowered my camera, my cam. Let's see. Dear, what happened?
Oh, was that? Oh,
You
what I'm.
changed it around. I don't see me.
Oh, you don't see? Oh no, it should. No, I'm coming right here. What I needed to. No, no, I'll stop sharing here.
I don't see me anymore. I see you, but I don't see me. I see the back of a blue screen or something.
A blue screen. Hold on. Um, I'll stop sharing here. What I was trying
There
to.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I had was yeah. So I do have the track, and I hopefully that you can hear it. So
Yay. Oh, that's fun. Yes, exactly. I don't know if the light is good now because I have to stand up. But yeah,
yeah.
let's do it. So you said don't let go, right?
Yeah. Let me
Okay,
know
yes.
if you can hear it. If it come, can you hear it?
No.
Ah, okay. So that's
I'm turned you all the way up. No, I don't hear anything. I
no,
just
no.
hear
So
you.
so that's what I need to. I'm going to find out how to get this. Hold on. I'm gonna play this through
My
here.
light is connected to my laptop, so I have to keep my laptop on.
Oh, you.
No,
Okay.
my laptop, the light that I have is plugged into there, so I have to keep it on. But go ahead.
get the screen. Okay. And
Yeah.
hold on. Blue screen.
Blue screen. I don't see you anymore.
Yeah, you don't see me. It's and
I
I
see
guess.
you. I'm sorry. I don't see me anymore.
Oh, you don't see. Yeah, you probably can you. Okay, yeah, because what I was. Let me see. Yeah. So let me. That is fine. As I said, that's the one thing that no, hide display meeting. I think that's the one thing about pre-recording is that I can I like that's why I do
Oh,
this way.
that's all right.
It
That's
gives
okay
me
as
the
long as I can
it
hear the
gives
song, but I can't hear the song either. If you're playing it, I don't hear anything.
yeah no I haven't started playing because if I play now you'd hear it, but if I play it now you'd hear it, but I'm
See,
trying.
I'm not linking up with it. Yeah,
Are you
it's
not
weird.
linking? Okay, hold on.
No.
Let me try. I think one of the things I'm realizing is that one of the things that's happening is that let me sharing the screen. Is that it's let me see if this happens. Yeah, so what seems to be happening is that it's playing, but I'm not able to get it through here, and it's a pity that
Huh.
you didn't have the um hold on. That's why I always went to plan B, was to and I hopefully this would be loud enough here.
Mm.
Yes, but
It's loud, but I'm singing off with it because it's like an echo.
because
You know what I
it's
mean? It's not syncing up with me, so I'm a little bit behind it because it's not loud enough. I can't hear it loud enough, and I've got you all the way up here.
yeah. No, you know what? I think normally what helps is that if it's, and I guess with that kind of stuff, it's always, it would have been better if you had it to your background and we feed off of that, because then
Oh, oh,
it
you didn't say that. I would have had it ready. You didn't say it. I thought you had it ready.
no, I did have it, but I think what you sort of highlighted is that if I played it, it could just be a couple of seconds delay, and it could
Okay, let me
then.
see if I can find it here. Let me
Okay.
see. Um, don't let go. All right, let me type in "don't let go." Mm. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I have my Bluetooth on. Yeah, so hold on. Let me get my speaker.
Yeah, take your time, don't worry.
All right, let's see. So I have my speaker.
Oh, okay, looks like a shield.
Yes, it's a USB speaker. And I'm gonna plug in, wall, my Bluetooth on. you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
My, well,
You're
yeah,
gonna you're gonna stop it before I get to that part, right?
yeah, no, 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 yeah, 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 yeah. That, yeah, cut it out.
Okay.
Yeah, goodness, amazing. Now, what was goes through your mind when you're singing it? Because you know, you're closing your eyes, you're almost as if you're being transported somewhere.
Well, yeah, you gotta feel the song when you're singing it. You can't just stand there and stare and not emote. You know what I mean? So you're feeling the song. It's a beautiful song. It takes me back to the beginning. I'm watching. You see, I have the video here.
Okay,
Can
you're
you see
playing
that?
from, yeah, from the video. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the video and I'm seeing us, and it just reminds me of my childhood again with them, the early years. But yeah, please cut that part out.
Oh, which part? Which
that
part? Which part? Which part was
that
that?
last little part, last little part, I went off the note.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Sure, 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 sure. No, yeah, of course, definitely.
Please
What
fade that
I'll,
out.
yeah,
Thank you.
when that part of the video, when we, I'll cut this out from the rest, and then
Okay.
we'll look into it. My final stuff, which I ask all my guests, is that if
Yes.
you were stuck in an elevator and they said, "Look, we're about to get you out, but just before we get you out, you can watch a movie. While before we get you out, what movie would you request to watch?"
The Matrix.
Okay, well done, Neo.
Smart movie. The smartest movie that has ever been made. It shows us exactly what society is and how we're
Yeah,
run by the powers that be.
yeah,
The media, the news, the government tells us what to do. We go to work every day. We are stuck in the matrix. And until you free your mind from it
yeah,
and literally separate yourself from what you see every day on TV, they tell us how to think, they
mm,
tell us how to live, how to be fearful of stuff, we're afraid of COVID. I'm not saying that it's not out there, but the numbers that they're inflating are just way too much.
yeah.
It's not even happening that bad,
Okay,
or as bad as they say. So
yeah,
it's like, yeah, unplug yourself from the matrix and think for yourself. You can watch the news, or you can be inundated and beat up every
yeah,
single day by the same fear-based news every day, all day. So the Matrix was a smart movie, and it had prominent Black people that were playing the prominent roles in that movie.
yeah, yeah. They did.
Um, yeah, Lawrence Fishburne was, the Oracle was an old Black woman. She had all the
Yeah,
wisdom in the world. I
yeah,
mean, come
yeah,
on. So to me, I just thought, what a smart ass movie. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah,
They unplugged him from the matrix and he saw things as they really were, as opposed to what they wanted to see.
yeah,
And it was hard to look at because he's
yeah,
like, I don't want to be on the Nebuchadnezzar on this old ship with this terrible food. But he knew that in order to unplug himself, he had to get out of mainstream.
yeah.
So that would be the one. I'd
That
watch
would be
that
the
over and
one.
over and over.
And then when they are about to put in the movie, but it's still like it'll take a few minutes or so, what song would you request to watch before, listen to before the movie comes on?
Don't let go.
Okay.
Don't let go. Yep, because I sing lead on it, and it's a smart song as well. It's just a beautiful song. I love that song very much. But yeah, those it would be "Don't Let Go." I can might as well sing while I'm waiting. How did I
Okay.
sound though? Did I sound okay just now?
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep, yeah. Look, I mean, yeah, perfect. You sounded
I did
vocally perfect.
okay.
Yes,
All
yes,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
you
because
definitely did.
I honestly I forgot that you wanted me to sing, so I didn't warm up nothing, and I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
yeah,
same,
I
yeah,
didn't.
same war. No, no, no. It was, it's going to be a treat. It's going to definitely be a treat. But after I know it's about quarter past midnight here, but it's been great. It's been,
Oh, thank you,
it's
Namdi. Namdi, what a
Namdi.
name!
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. My battery's dying. You
yeah.
there?
No, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah, it was a great interview. I enjoy talk. I think you guys have a different. You do have a different point of view. And I told someone else from the UK the other day, you guys have a sense of humor that you laugh at yourselves more. You don't take life so seriously, and I like that. I could tell in the interview. Just your questions are smart, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, but it's been great. I mean, as I said, I grew up loving me. You know, I went to college. My uncle and auntie lived in Selma, Alabama, so I moved to the States in '92. Lived in Selma, Alabama. Went to junior college there. Then went to Wisconsin, Milwaukee to go to finish off my
Wow.
university. And then I moved to LA and lived in Redondo Beach for about 3 or 4 years before relocating to the UK. So, you know, lived in love. So I was there in the '90s and was there to
Hmm.
enjoy the music of the '90s and up to the mid 2000s. And
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so I've been a sort of a music fan. But as I said, I'm a trained therapist outside of that. So life coach and a therapist. And but you know, but what's been challenging for me over the past couple of months talking to musicians and singers and artists is
Hmm.
the very similar stories that you're sharing, probably not to the extent that you've had with falling out with En Vogue, but Timmy Gatlin in Guy, um,
Right.
LJ from Profile when they came out with Liar,
Hmm.
Nitty Green with Rift. They were the boys in Lean on Me. If you ever watch Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, and he got them singing in the bathroom, singing
Hmm.
each other. So that's them, and they went on to
Okay.
form Rift, and they were with SBK, and they performed with Vanilla Ice and stuff. Um, but yeah, the same sort of industry contracts and stuff like that, and it's really sad. So our audience are
Hmm.
listening to this and they're like, wow, we didn't realize, and that's still been happening among
And
our
again,
black
it doesn't happen with the white artist. That's what I don't understand. It's like they want to tear us down, and if we're not smart, we allow it.
yeah, no,
So,
definitely,
so like I said, if Cindy, Terry, Maxine would have just had my back and stood up with me against the record company, everything would have been fine. But they, like I said, held me accountable for doing a solo album and not Terry. And
yeah.
it was just, I wasn't the one. I was not the one. I'm feisty. I will fight for myself every single time.
There's a part of me that asks wonders that did you and Terry, oh, did you seem to was there issues between just the two of you for
No,
okay,
no.
it's just when the
Terry was
late
sleep.
is
Terry
it's
was
just
sleeping with our producer, and she thought that that was okay to do. And I was the only one that would say something to her about it. Like, I don't care that you're sleeping with him. That's fine. What I care about is if you do the business that's required. You got to stand in solidarity with us. If you don't do that, you're
mm,
standing with your man instead of standing with us. I have a problem with that.
yeah,
But those conversations didn't even come up until later when we would try to resolve things or try to reconcile and get back as En Vogue and come back and reunite. That's when we would have those conversations. And even in the room with just the four of us, she wouldn't admit anything. Maxine and Terry and Cindy would just sit there and they wouldn't hold her accountable either. And I'm like, I'm not going to be in a group like that. I refuse to do that.
yeah,
So there was no beef with Terry and I. There was no problem between us at all. It's
yeah,
just that the record company was pissed off because I slighted them.
yeah.
And yeah, so.
But I guess that I think it's one of the things where we were we lost something great, and it's just sad. But the future
What's
is always the
life?
future. As yeah,
Yeah.
it is life in the
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
But
all of our parents, for the most part, most of our, oh, come on, you guys. Most of our parents have, broken up or gotten divorced when we were kids, and we didn't want them to break up, but that's life. We got to get over it and
yeah,
move on. And I'm so grateful because had I not left En Vogue, I wouldn't have done Lucy Pearl. Most likely, I would not have done that group. And I say that about the Beatles the same way that had the Beatles not broken up, we wouldn't have had Imagine by John Lennon or
yeah,
Paul McCartney and Wings. I mean, you got to go to grow. We can't keep it together just because we got to do save face for the public and for the fans. We have to do what's right by ourselves. And had they stood by my side, I
mm,
say it over and over and over again. I've been saying it consistently for years since I left in '97. Anytime I get in an interview, they would ask me about what happened with En Vogue, and I've been saying it since '97. They did not have my back. They kicked me out thinking that they could go on without me, and it fell apart.
mm,
It wasn't
yeah,
my fault.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, I tried my best to stay, but they didn't want me in the group. They thought,
yeah,
oh, we don't need her. We can do this without her. Good luck.
yeah.
Had I
No,
had I not, they probably would have gone on without me if don't like go ahead and have. No, because we were a group that the world knew and loved. All four of us mattered.
Yeah,
So with
but
me
no, I
gone,
think with Don't Let Go being
yeah, I just
it's
said that.
it's
Yeah,
like Tony Braxton's on Break My Heart, you know, it's like Don't Leave, but no doubts, Don't Leave. It's even Aerosmith when they had Don't Want to Lose it's one of those, because it was
big
a rock.
songs.
It was not an
Yeah,
R&B song. It was
right.
it
It's a
was a
big ballad.
crossover,
Yep.
and it got over to the pop side. And unfortunately, you went after that track. You guys went and did an R&B track with Babyface, which didn't follow through with where that single was. You should have listened to. They should have done the single. Said, look,
Hmm.
we need to get David Foster. We need to get the same guys to write a couple more ballads just like this, because we're going big time. But they went back
Yeah.
to R&B, and I think people went from that track to the first
Wow.
track, and it just, and it was just the three of them. It just didn't look good. It didn't make sense.
Well, not like I said to you, it's also karma. Anytime you do wrong to people and you think you're going to have a blessed life after that, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
We've seen it so many times with people that have done wrong and they're mean spirited or they do something so outlandish and so mean. It's like you can't expect to have success after that. The fans were not having it.
yeah, no,
They weren't
definitely,
having it.
yeah,
And God wasn't having it. I mean, if you believe in God, God was not, it was like what they did was wrong.
yeah,
Period. Period.
mm,
It was, there's no other way to say it. Like I've said it over and over again. I'm like blue in the face now because I've
yeah,
said it over and over again. Terry did a solo album. They kept her in the group. Dawn did a solo album. They kicked me out of the group. How
yeah,
is that ever okay?
yeah,
It's not going to work. So, and even coming back to the group, you can't come back to a situation. It's like getting back after you cheated on your wife or your wife cheats on you and you guys don't talk about it. You have to work it out, talk about it because it hurt me. What you did to me hurt very bad. And
mm,
because of what you did, the group fell apart. You guys kicked me out and the group fell apart. So the fans see us differently. They blame me for the breakup. They still blame me to this day because they don't know the truth. I'm just now getting that truth out of
mm,
what happened and how they treated me. So you got to deal with it. And Terry is not, she's not admitting anything. She doesn't want to talk about it. It's like, oh my God, wow. So
yeah,
you guys don't want to hold her accountable still after all these years. You still don't want to say, Terry, you're the one who did a solo album first. You had Denny as your man, as our producer. You were sleeping with him, and because of that, everything fell apart. It wasn't Dawn's fault. They haven't done that yet.
mm.
So I don't know what to say. I
Well,
mean,
we'll get the story out. But anyway, but I will. Yeah, as soon as we, edit and chop and start to bring it out, because if you stop bringing out an hour and a half stuff, you'd only get a handful of people. But by
yeah.
by careful
Well,
editing
just
and
make
plus.
sure with the singing part because I want that little last piece. I want that off of there. So please, I don't know how you're gonna
So
fade that
yeah,
down.
yeah. So I will. So with that particular one, when I'm bringing that out, I'll email it to you so you can look at it and see and make sure that you're fine with it. So don't worry about that. So I won't.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I
wonderful.
will. Yeah, definitely yeah, with that
Okay,
particular part, I'll I'll edit it separately. Then I'll send it and say, what do you think? Are you okay with this? And
okay,
we can
good.
cut it out and stuff. So that's fine.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
so
you, Namdi. Thank you so much for your time today too. This was
yeah,
wonderful.
it's great, and when we're editing and stuff, I'll just keep in touch with you. If you can I'll send you the stuff on YouTube so you can see and stuff like that.
Okay, very
Okay,
good, very good. Thank you
all
so
right
much.
then.
All
All
right,
right,
we'll talk soon.
take care.
Get some sleep.
Yes, 12:30 in the night this
Get some
morning.
sleep. Yeah, exactly. Get some rest.
All right,
All right, take care. Bye
bye.
bye.